Hey, this is Naked at Night with Lance and JD and Cassidy and Rick and Mark. And I want to start off talking about the very serious problem of Jewish rape gangs. Jewish rape gangs have groomed and raped approximately 5 million American children. And this comes from the Jewish culture of rape. And we should not let any more Jews into this country. And we should kick out the Jews that are here. They can go back to Jewish majority countries where they embrace the culture of rape. And Lance, that's based on what you told me when I modeled for you last week, where I said, Lance, do you ever listen to a podcast that isn't political? And you said, yeah, I listen to podcasts about, is that right? The light? No.
You deserve no better, Rick.
Okay. So you say your non-political podcasts that you listen to are about how fucked up the UK is. And I'm like, well, why and how is it fucked up? And you told me that London is now 65% Muslim, and that Muslim rape gangs have raped and groomed 1 million British children. And so then I looked up some shit. And so when was the last time you were in London? Maybe 40 years ago, Lance?
Before you misquote me,
Yeah.
let me just clarify a few things. London, I was there 20 years ago. London is 65% non-English, non-ethnically English. And of that 65%, the vast majority are Muslims, usually from Pakistan.
Okay, so
Stop!
No, I was talking. No, because I get to no freaking Lance. No, fucking no. I looked it up. I've been to London twice a year for the past 2-3 years. And London is 15% Muslim. Of the Muslims in the UK, only a quarter of them are from Pakistan. England is 81.7% white. So your numbers are screwed. And the number of where you said 1 million.
No, I said between 250,000.
Yeah,
and 1 million.
the Sarah Champion, the UK member of parliament who came up with that estimated it based on Pakistani rape gangs in 1 or 2 cities. What's the Telford, Oxford, and what's the other freaking city? Rotherham, where there was a serious problem where across 2 decades, the 90s and the aughts, Pakistani gangs of shopkeepers and taxi drivers somehow got the police to turn a blind eye to the grooming and raping of girls in Rotherham, to the tune of 1,400 girls victimized across 2 decades. And then a minister of parliament, this Sarah Champion, said, well, if you extrapolate that to the whole country, it means that between 250,000 and 1 million girls have been raped by Muslims. And then 10 years ago, in 2015, she admitted that she'd done bad math and that there was no factual basis for this extrapolation. And it's the same extrapolation that I did based on a gang that groomed 1,000 girls across two decades down in Palm Beach, a gang led by Jeffrey Epstein, a Jew. So I painted all the Jews in America based on one rapey Jew, and came up with a crazy estimate of 5 million, as if there was a rape gang in every Palm Beach-sized community in America, which is the same math that Sarah Champion did that you got your bogus number from, because the actual number, I looked it up on UK sites, so 81.7% of Britain is white. And whites commit 78% of the rapes in Britain. So also the rape rates, if Muslims were committing like an inordinate amount of rapes, you'd expect England is 10% Muslim overall. The US is 1% Muslim. If Muslims were going on a rape spree, you would expect that the rape statistics in England would be higher than the US, but they're roughly the same. They're bad. That one woman in four, sometime in her lifetime, suffers from some kind of sexual assault. In both countries, there's not a lot of difference between the stats. So anyway, what I'm saying is I'm calling bullshit on your numbers.
All right, I'm going to take 4 minutes. So here's the situation. My numbers come from a variety of sources. Tommy Robinson, Gad Saad, various members of parliament have all looked into it and have extensive numbers, okay, which you can verify. So if you look at the numbers that the Labour government that are depending on Muslim votes provide you, the Labour government will lie. And one of the things they found out is that the police and the government were lying about the numbers. So the actual numbers are much higher. And I can refer you to a variety of sites if you have time after the show where you can find out the actual numbers. That's number one. Number two, the country's gone from less than 1% Muslim to 10% Muslim because
over what time period?
Over a period of about 20 years. About maybe certainly during my lifetime. And so maybe 40 years. But the point is, it's an invasion. And the leaders of the Muslims, including Muammar Gaddafi himself, said, this is how we're going to take over Britain. What we're going to do is we're going to send millions of migrants to their country, just as many as they can take. The average Muslim family has 6 children. The average English family has 1 child. Okay? And they said that within a few generations, we will have 30% of the country. They now predict it will be by 2040, 2050. And when they do, they will take over Britain. And one of the ways that they do it before they actually have the war, because they did this in Lebanon too. So Lebanon was taken over by Muslims the exact same way. Lebanon used to be a majority Christian country in my lifetime. Okay? It was a majority Christian country in 1970, 1980. Now it's 85% Muslim. And this is how it was described in the Quran. So one of the ways that it's described, I guess you could say by Muhammad, but one of the dictates is that if we can't destroy our opponents by force, by war, we'll send millions, we'll send as many people over to their country as we can. They'll be very polite. They'll become part of the political system, and then they'll take over by numbers. Muammar Gaddafi said, by the wombs of our women, we will take over the West. We'll take over Europe. And they made a deal in the 70s or 80s to bring in millions of Muslims to Europe, which is what they're doing to the US as well. Now you ask me, why is rape part of the Arab culture? Because Muhammad was a great rapist, okay? He raped his opponents, many of them Jews, but Christians and Muslims, or Christians and Jews have always been considered fair game for rape in the Muslim religion because it was a tradition that began in the Quran. And what happens is they rape.
4 minutes, Lance, that's 4 minutes. So Lance, you've never had a class in statistics, so you fall for all sorts of crappy statistical arguments. Also, everybody should Google Tommy Robinson, a guy who's changed his name 5 times to obscure his criminal record, who started off as a self-admitted fascist and a soccer hooligan, and not a great mathematician. Now, admittedly, he managed to get into an aeronautical engineering program as a younger man. So he has had some math, but he had to leave the program after getting in a drunken altercation with an off-duty police officer. But he comes from a thuggy-ass background and not a great math background. And the idea that in 25 years, the number with immigration to England, the same anti-immigration sentiment in the U.S. is also in England. And the idea that somehow the number of Muslims could triple in a single generation doesn't hold any mathematical water. Also, Britain, 9 out of every 11 Brits are white. 6 out of every 11 Americans are white. We will be a minority white country decades and decades before Britain ever becomes minority white, if Britain ever becomes minority white. You said by the 2050s, which is ridiculous for Britain, that they will become 30% Muslim. No, that's mathematically impossible. But the US by the 2050s will certainly be a white minority country. That is, more than 50% of Americans will not be whitey, which we're already in the, 55% roughly. But it doesn't mean that America is lost. It doesn't mean that Britain is lost. It doesn't mean that the majority of non-whites in either country are plotting to subvert the culture.
You done?
Yep. But
Okay.
I talked for 2:11, so you.
Okay. So the reason that the Muslim culture is rapey is because that's how Muhammad and his followers would treat their defeated opponents. They killed an estimated 80 million people in India when they took over India.
When was that?
It was over the centuries. But Muhammad is on record as having raped Jews and Christians, and they consider it a way of showing dominance. They break the spirit of the people that they're attacking. So as a result, raping of Jewish women has always been a tradition among the Muslims. And now that they're in Britain, they're raping as many girls as they can. And one of the things that they proved is that not only did they rape these girls by at the very least the hundreds of thousands, but their whole families had to be participants, because you can't get away with raping people in the basement if your family doesn't know about it. Now you may ask, well, why is it that the family went along with it? Because the highest number of incestuous marriages in the world are in Pakistan. And most of these rapists are from Pakistan. And they have a tremendous amount of inbreeding because it's a Muslim tradition to marry your relatives. So the women are very, very inbred. Now, I'll give Rick a statistic since he's so knowledgeable about statistics. In Egypt, it turns out that there are over 100 million women whose genitals have been mutilated. That means that the Muslims cut the clitorises off their genitals. And we know that because women's groups periodically report.
All right, you've spoken as long as I have. There aren't 100 million people in Egypt.
There are 300 million people in Egypt.
You're so freaking wrong.
There are 300 million people in Egypt. Look it up.
They're not. They're about, I don't know that they're even.
90% have been genitally mutilated.
What
It could
I
be
get-
200 million, but 90% of the women have had their clitorises cut off by your Muslim buddies.
You're just
And you're
so
fine with
okay.
it.
The population of Egypt is 116.5 million, which means that there are only 58 million women.
How many? Look up how many have been generally
All right,
mutilated.
fine, but like you just throw out numbers.
No,
like,
no. I thought I was thinking of Indonesia. The population of Indonesia is 300 million. Fine. It's over 100 million, and 90%.
Indonesia's not 300 million.
Indonesia's 300 million.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's 200. All right, close. 283.5 million.
Okay, thanks. I'm the only guy in the fucking room that knows the population of Indonesia to within 16 million. Sorry. But the point I'm trying to make is that 90% of these women have had their genitals mutilated. Is that the kind of England that
Yeah, but
we
that
want?
shit is not going on to any great extent in England.
Yes, it
Lance.
is. They bring it with them. It's going on in Dearborn, Michigan. How do you like that?
It's
Rick?
against the law in both countries.
They're doing it anyway. They don't care about the fucking law. They
You're
believe in
so
Muhammad's
crazy,
law.
Lance.
I'm so crazy. That's his
Yeah,
answer.
yeah,
That's
you
his argument.
listen to right-wing thuggy
Do you
lunatics.
think it's okay to remove the clitoris
No.
of baby girls? Then why don't you shut up about Muslims? Why don't you just say, you know what, this is a bad thing. We don't need these people in the West. Because they're going to cut the genitals off of their children. And that's not what we go for here. Why don't you say that, Mr. Compassion? Like you give a shit about women or children or America?
All right, so here's the statistics, according to, and it's not a super small number. In the US, according to Google AI, it's estimated that 500,000 women and girls have undergone female genital mutilation or are at risk. This figure, based on 2012 data, reflects women and girls who immigrated from countries where this happens or who were born in the US to mothers from those countries.
How come your Democrat friends never told you this shit, and every single Republican I know knows this? Don't you feel stupid?
No, I know about it. I didn't know
You
that.
didn't know about it until I told you.
Fucking Lance, I took a ton of women's studies in college, and we
And they
learned about
never
all this.
said one word about Islam mutilating the genitals of their women. Not one fucking word. Don't you have any compassion?
No,
But this is what, can I say something?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is what is so, oh my God, just like, even just hearing you two argue, I'm like, this is something that in the whole world, it's not even America, it's the world. The government and what has happened with government control or societal control along with religion has become a huge issue. And it's now like, if you see, like now we're at war, like we're all in a religious war of some sort, the whole world, that we did not sign up for. And I think it's because these texts and these spiritual and religious bodies of work have been actually taken and by all different forms of government, like our government, all different countries' government, and used for control over the people. And so now we're in this a worldwide war that none of us signed up for. And that's what I feel like we have to undo.
Okay. Do you think, Cassidy, that Christians and Jews cut the clitorises off their children, off their female children?
I know that Christians and Jews have their own set. It's not even like it's any religion at this point.
No,
like anything that's been
no. Are there
because
any
there's
Jew-
pastures that take advantage of little boys.
Okay.
It's like,
Yeah, but do they cut the genitals off of their female children?
I'm sure some do.
No, they don't. It's not a Christian practice. It's not a Jewish practice. It is a Muslim
There's
practice.
things that affect children. It's all religious things that have been intertwined with government and how they're using it for control of people. It's not the original religion.
Rick's fact checking me right now.
No, so
'Cause he wants to make sure.
It's
before
okay, so
kids
it's
get
not
Like
pregnant.
if we
in-
take religion before it was affected by those who want domination and those who are using it as control and manipulation for war, if we take it to its purest essence, I think maybe most religious forms, different religions, are actually pure. I think what man has done with them, that's where we're at fault, and what government has done with them.
So it's okay with you if more women get their genitals mutilated in
All right, so
Muslim
the
countries?
most recent statistics that I can
Yeah.
find quickly are from 2012. And I can tell you that along with the statistics are a federal law about it, that there's a federal law against female genital mutilation of anybody under 18 carries a 10-year prison sentence. And there are also state laws against it in 41 states.
What about Egypt?
I don't know, frickin', you know more about it.
I guess they don't have a law against it in the Muslim countries.
Yep,
Huh?
but Lance, what you told me last week when you said you don't listen when you listen to non-political podcasts, you listen to podcasts about England being a mess,
Yes.
and then you gave me two wildly inaccurate
They're not
statistics.
inaccurate. They're not
One
inaccurate.
that came.
Pakistanis are raping hundreds of thousands of English children. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I will go to my grave. You looked up ChatGPT, did you? Or some sort of
No, I looked up numerous articles and the woman who came up with that estimate in 2015, 10 years ago, admitted that her estimate had no basis in fact. Sarah Champion, people can Google her.
Okay.
So
what
I'm saying is that you're full of shit and you're
you're
anti-Muslim fear mongering. And say Pakistani people do have a higher instance of what you're saying. Well, only a quarter of the Muslims in the UK are Pakistani, which is only 2.5% of the population. And according to the websites I looked at, there's no huge difference in the percentages of rape committed by various ethnicities within Britain.
Rick, may I say that Afghans commit 20 times the more rapes in Britain than the Anglo-Saxon Englishmen. 20 times. And
According to what?
And the government hid the statistic because they're getting elected by these people. They want their votes. And you're okay with it. You know, rape is okay with you, Rick. You're so blind. You're so much a supporter of left-wing causes that if hundreds of thousands of English girls get raped by Muslims, that's something you're going to fight to
The
keep
claim
quiet.
that Afghans in the UK are 20 times more likely to be convicted of sexual offenses than British nationals comes from a specific data analysis that has been widely disputed by fact checkers and experts. The figure is considered misleading due to significant statistical and data limitations.
What's your source?
The
ChatGPT?
statistic originated from
what's your
analysis.
source? What's your source?
I'm saying it by the Center for Migration Control, which used Ministry of Justice data obtained through Freedom of Information requests. The data covered sexual offense convictions between 2021 and 23 in England and Wales.
Then it's true.
No, why the figure
That's
is
the
disputed.
best-
Hold on. Fact-checking organizations and official bodies like the Office for National Statistics highlighted several issues with the methodology, making the comparison unreliable. Outdated population data. So migration from Afghanistan increased significantly after the Taliban's return to power, meaning the actual Afghan population in the UK during the period was much larger than the 2021 estimate. Small sample sizes and demographic differences. The Afghan population in the UK is on average much younger than the general British population, with a higher proportion of young men. So
those young men, they're not raping very much?
when a more appropriate population data set using country of birth is used, experts and other analyses, such as Sky News, suggest that Afghans are roughly 3 times more likely to be convicted of a sexual offense than someone born in the UK, not 22 times. So yeah, it's not great. It's pretty fucking bad.
No,
but
but you're
you're
okay with it. You're fine with it.
well, A, I didn't know about it till you freaking brought it up.
Well, then
And
why don't
B,
you- why
you
don't you-
jump on everything.
I do because of you, people get raped. You're the kind of person that causes people to be raped in America and Britain. Because instead of listening to people that know more about it, you just say, so let me get this straight. We're bringing people from a rape culture, from a rape book, the Quran, that have been raping people for thousands of years, that raped hundreds of Jewish women on October 7th, that have been raping Jews for 1,000 years. And it says in their Quran to rape the people to rape the Christians and the Jews. And guess what?
See if it says that in the Quran.
Wait. And instead of saying, let me get this straight. Maybe when they go to Britain and America, they commit rapes. No, you can't countenance such a possibility. Instead, you got to argue.
No, but you guys, you use bullshit statistics cooked up by untrained fucking lunatics.
I'm not
I'm
an
sure with
untrained lunatic.
Every religion, there's some crazy statistic about something that's taken out of context.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong, Cassidy. Every religion does not say that you should take over enemy countries that are not in your religion and then rape their women.
Wait, okay, let's find that in the Quran. I heard the Quran is a beautiful text.
Yeah, oh, Cassidy, that's so sad.
All right, I think we should move on from this.
I'm not done. The Quran is not a beautiful text.
I've had friends that have read it. And
I know. They read let me tell you something about the Quran, okay? It comes in 2 languages. Rick doesn't give a shit what I'm saying. He's just fact checking. So I love having a conversation with Rick's computer. So what's happening?
Yeah, because I can find actual statistics rather than the ones you get off of right-wing fucking podcasts.
Why is it that I have to argue with Cassidy, you, and your computer?
Because you sit on a throne of bullshit, Lance. Your statistics are crap. You told me London is 65% Muslim.
It's 65% non.
The words that came out of your mouth. London is 65% Muslim.
That was in a private conversation.
So you can just lie and tell bullshit if it's a private conversation.
It's 65% non-English white.
Yeah, you didn't say that. You didn't say that.
Because Linda was screaming at me. Do I have to come up with the exact number while Linda is screaming?
So I guess you can say whatever the fuck you want if Linda is screaming at you.
We don't know the actual percentage.
Yeah, because
illegal immigrants are pouring into the country. It is a massive percentage of Muslims in London. It's not. It's more.
I go to London fucking all the time.
Okay, well, it is when I was a kid, there weren't any. Now it's 65% Muslim and other third world minorities that came there in the past generation.
Yeah, and they're not destroying the
crime rate has skyrocketed. The murder rate has skyrocketed. The rape rate has skyrocketed. England used to be the safest country in the world, one of the safest in the world. I have to be very precise.
All right, so yeah,
it has the same rape statistics as LA.
So here are the statistics on immigrants pouring into the UK.
On ChatGPT, the left-wing news.
This is Google AI. So
Google AI. Why don't you just ask the American Communist Party?
So this. All right. So. And as reported by the British government. So
the British government.
So key data from I know you say everybody's just lying all the time.
They're being bribed by the Pakistanis so they can bring more people in who will vote for them.
Yeah,
Tommy Robinson got 1 million people.
Tommy Robinson's been in prison for actual thuggery.
He's been in prison because he's fighting the Muslims that are trying to take over Britain. He's the last great Englishman. He's as great a man as Winston Churchill.
No, he's a fucking soccer thug.
You don't know
drunken
a damn thing
idiot.
About him. You've never heard.
Google him, everybody. Google Tommy Robinson.
Let's go on the communist news stations to find out about it. I'm sure they'll say the right thing.
All right, so the vast majority of people arriving claim asylum. The number of asylum claims in the UK reached a record high of 111,000 in the year ending in June 2025. So one person in 500 in Britain is somebody claiming asylum arriving in the year 2024 to 2025. So yeah, that's a lot of people, but it's only 111,000, which is only one person in 500, which is not exactly the fall of British frickin' civilization.
It is, because within a couple of generations, there will be enough Muslims in Britain to take it over.
The math does not wash.
Well,
Lance.
why did it work in Lebanon? I'm just curious.
What?
How did Lebanon go in 40 years from majority Christian to majority Muslim? You want to look that up in the communist newspapers?
Well,
Here, look it up, Rick.
Well, what?
Look it up. Muslim population of Lebanon 80 years
I'll look
ago
it up when
to
we're
today.
on between
No,
episodes.
because you know I'm right. You can't.
No, I won't, because Lebanon
Was
has
Lebanon a
fought.
Christian country?
How much civil wars? How many wars has Lebanon had in the past 40 years?
They've been fighting continuously with their Muslim population.
Yeah,
Who
so-
wiped them out? Massacre after
So right now,
massacre, Rick.
Lebanon is controlled by the Hezbollah mafia, right? Hezbollah controls Lebanon.
Okay, you're going to ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. What happened was, it was a Christian majority country 40, 50 years ago. It's now a Muslim country, 80% Muslim. They massacred thousands and thousands of Christians, and you don't give a flying fuck.
Frickin' Lebanon is 1/20th the size of England, and was always had a.
It's not 1/20th the size of England.
Are you kidding? I mean,
It's-
geographically, it's like one.
There's about, I would say, 8 million people in Lebanon.
6 million. All right, so there.
Okay, it was off by 2 million on the population of Lebanon. We're doing
So
pretty well.
Lebanon is 1/10, 1/11th the size of
Okay,
Britain.
does it bother you that it went from majority Christian to majority Muslim in 40 years?
It's not happening in freaking England. It won't.
No, it
happen.
will. They're doing the exact same thing. That's
You're
their
bad
trick.
at math, Lance. You haven't had a math class.
It doesn't matter if I'm good
in
at math.
45 years. You
Rick.
buy bullshit from idiots who don't know how to do math.
No. I know a lot of people smarter than you.
No,
That-
you don't.
that
I'm the
comes-
smartest motherfucking person on the planet. I've got
Okay.
the highest
Okay,
IQ
Rick,
in America.
Wait, do you really?
Yes.
Was Lebanon majority Christian and then turned majority Muslim in the past couple of generations? Is
I
that
would say,
true or
based
not?
on you insisting, yeah, I would say, yeah, but I mean, I can do more typing, yeah.
So that's what they're going to do to Britain.
They're
It's
not.
working-
They have
How
no
do you know
chance
they're
of doing it.
not? How do you
Because
know
they
they're
have
not?
no statistical demographic chance of doing
They've
it.
gone from 2% to 10% in 40 years. What do you think of that, Rick? Do the math. Do the math.
So they
2% to
By
10%
2050.
is 5 times, right?
by 2050.
That means in 40 more years it'll be 50%, right?
No,
10%
you're
will
an
go-
idiot. You're
will
a
go 5
fucking
times,
idiot.
right?
You're a
If it goes from
damn idiot.
If it's 2% to 10% in 2 generations, then it'll be 10% to 50% in 2 more generations. Right, Rick? Isn't that the math?
No, it's not the fucking math.
Okay, well, then do the math for me right now. We've gone from 2% to 10% in 2 generations. What's it going to be
I wonder
in 2
though-
more
I
generations?
wonder though in the generation.
No, I got it. The son of a bitch can do the math because you're telling me that I'm stupid. You tell me the math. If it went from 2% to 10% in 2 generations, what's it going to be now going from 10% in 2 more generations? What's it going to be, Rick? Be a genius.
Let's not rely on me. Let's go to fucking the AI. So by 2050, the UK's Muslim population is projected to be between 11.2 to 17.2% Muslim. This range depends on migration levels, with the higher end of the estimate assuming a continuation of high migration scenarios.
I'm too exhausted.
The rate
just
of-
just do the math, Rick.
The math says
That's
no
the
more
AI.
than
They're lying. They're lying. The AI is written by communists. I don't want to hear the AI.
the AI
I want-
is AI is one of the most capitalistic. You're so fucking
They're lying.
retarded,
They're
Lance.
lying.
Lance.
What's the Muslim population going to be if it's gone from 2% to 10% in 2 generations? What's it going to be? The same rate will continue. What's it going to be, Rick?
It'll be the UK will be 12% Muslim in 2050.
Are you using AI or are you doing the math? I thought you were a mathematician. I'm saying it's going to be 50%.
Like the year 2100, approximately 19% of the UK population is projected to be Muslim.
No. They're saying that they're going to exceed the native-born English population within about 50 years.
Yeah, but those are assholes that you
No,
listen
I
to.
just did the math sitting here right
no,
now.
No, you can't do demographic
Wait,
math,
2%?
Lance. You're an art guy who
Two-
listens to
no,
a-holes.
No, 2% to 10% in 40 years, 10% to 50% in 40 more years.
That's not how it
It
frickin'
increased
works.
5 times.
That's not how it frickin' works.
Why not?
Well, it's based on immigration.
No, it's based on them having 5 children per family, and they marry 2 wives. That's 10 children per man.
That's not what they don't. UK Muslims do not have multiple wives.
That's
for
a
the,
lie. They do. They have as many wives as they want.
All right, we got to
It's
move on
part
to
of the
something else.
fucking
'Cause this is-
religion that you
all right,
believe in.
this is too retarded to
How many
continue.
how many women can a Muslim man have, Rick? Do you know? Do you know how many wives he can have?
I'm sure the Quran says 5 or some bullshit.
Okay, they can have at least 4. Okay, and they can have 5 kids with each wife, and they do that in London.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. The marriages they have their own courts and their own marriages. They have their own courts. They have Sharia courts in Britain. Did you know that? And
Yeah,
the
but
Sharia,
they don't. Oh,
They do. They have their own courts, and those courts
those courts
Say-
do not have.
they allow you to have bigamy. You can have 4 wives. You don't have to tell people that you do, but they do. They have 4 wives.
There's no precise percentage available for UK Muslims who have multiple wives. It is considered a rare practice, though an estimated 20,000 polygamous marriages exist in the UK.
20,000.
So there are 6 million Muslims in the UK,
Okay.
and there
6
are
million.
20,000 polygamous marriages. So that is 1/3 of 1% of people in the UK are estimated to be in a polygamous marriage. One person in 300. You take 300 Muslims.
I don't believe your statistics.
I know you don't believe shit, but let's go on to something else because I'm tired of
Defending Islam.
no, I'm tired of playing racism hockey with your
Not
bullshit.
ra-
So okay.
Now he calls me a racist. It's okay if children get raped. It's all right with Rick. He's
Well, I think
Democrat.
that's like where like racism and like
Or let's
big like that's where I think like this is where it starts is like taking something way out of context and like categorizing a whole body of people to being in this when it's like it's not like th- it's not
Yeah.
like the whole body of people, you know? Like
They're
this
not
is-
all raping.
no
Some Muslims don't rape.
All right, so enough. We're done with this. I'm calling time on this. I want to. What do you think of Lance? I just saw the Eddie Murphy documentary. Okay, and what do you when you hear Eddie Murphy? What do you think of Lance?
Uh, I think of a guy that was pretty talented, but a little overrated.
All right, so what I heard was, what character do you think he's slated to play next?
Clouseau?
Yeah, did you know that he is?
Yeah.
So Eddie Murphy, your dad created Inspector Clouseau 64 years ago.
Correct.
And Eddie Murphy, and there have been what, about 8, 9 Pink Panther movies?
I don't remember.
Maybe at least 7 that have grossed altogether, if you convert to $20, $25, well over $1 billion.
Well over.
All right. So Your dad created the Pink Panther, Inspector Clouseau, the whole structure that was made into one of the most lasting film franchises in history. Now, Steve Martin, he did two of them. They made a ton of money, but they weren't very highly rated. They weren't great movies.
I thought one of them was pretty.
The first one was pretty good, but the second one kind of stank. But they're taking another shot at it.
Right.
And you'd think now, the creator of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, you'd expect every time they make a new Star Trek show or movie that his heirs make a ton of money. You'd expect that George Lucas makes money every time they do a new Star Wars project, right?
Yeah.
That Ian Fleming, who created James Bond, his heirs make a ton of money whenever they make a new James Bond project, right?
Yeah.
All right, so they're going to make a new Pink Panther, and the heirs, you and your 5 siblings, are going to split what, maybe $3 million for this new Pink Panther movie?
No. What happened was, I don't know why I'm saying these personal things, but
Because it's
My
interesting
father-
because
okay.
Hollywood will fuck you.
all right, so this is what happened. In 1965, they made the first sequel to the Pink Panther called Shot in the Dark. My father took the producers to arbitration with the Writers Guild. The Writers Guild agreed to give my father $10,000 if they ever make a sequel of the Pink Panther. The problem is that they didn't put into the contract that it would be inflation adjusted. So $10,000 in 1965 would be how much today, Rick?
I don't know. I wouldn't say quite tenfold, but let's just say it'd be $100,000, which is still not great because there wouldn't be a Pink Panther if it weren't for your dad.
Yeah, but
Now, Steve Martin, I think for the
100
first one made, because I think he had profit participation, he maybe made $50 million. And Eddie Murphy, he hasn't made too many movies lately. Maybe he'll get 20 million. You guys split 90, you and your 5 brothers and sisters split $9,200. You each get $1,500 for a movie that will gross easily more than $250 million. You took them to court and the law supported you, but you got a crappy judge who was snowed by the MGM lawyers.
Well, it's a little more complicated than that. The agreement to get the pittance for the sequels was a Writers Guild agreement, and we just didn't have anybody accounting for inflation. And so that's on our side. So
Yeah, but also the law says
but-
that you have the legal right to renegotiate with the studio.
yeah, that's called that's called the renewal rights. So what happens is the renewal rights is if a work of art continues to make money 20 years, I believe 28 years later for the producer or publisher, then the original author has the right to renegotiate renewal rights. So essentially the owner, the publisher, has to give the original author another shot at negotiating a better deal. And it was made because writers were always having this happen, where they're broke, they sell their stuff when they're young, and then the thing becomes a classic. And so this was made to be a redress to those authors that are taken advantage of.
So after
However,
28 years, you essentially become a free agent, and you can sit down with MGM and say, well, if you
you can, but the court refused to give us that.
because
right.
you got a crappy judge, and MGM had some fancy lawyers who
Right.
confused the judge.
Right, and I'm trying to say this thing as legally as possible because I don't want us to get sued. Like I can't be, this part I have to be very good about what I'm saying. I have to be very accurate. but the author of copyright law for the film industry, named Nimmer, who writes Nimmer on copyright, whose father was also Nimmer on copyright, says that we deserve the money. That that copyright law was turned on its head, essentially.
So here's how the negotiation should have gone. You sit down with the MGN lawyers. Your lawyers sit down, and you guys say, give us $2 million, and you can use the characters to make a sequel. And then the MGM lawyers say, for $2 million, it's not worth it to us to make a movie. We can't, we're not going to, we just won't make the movie.
Right.
And then we'll give you $400,000.
Right.
And then your guys come back and they say $1.2 million, and you end up settling for, I don't know, $750,000, $600,000. You and your sibs each make $100,000 for a movie that will gross $300 million, which seems, fair.
Oh,
But no, instead you guys get $1,500
how
each.
did you know about the 9,800?
No,
Do
I
you
thought it was
remember
9,200.
that? Yeah, it might have been 9,200. Yeah, there's no inflation.
Because we've
Even if
talked
there'd
about
been-
it.
Even if there'd been some
it-
inflation, they've made 11 of these, I think, and we would have had a pretty penny.
Yeah, it would. It makes me crazy because the money is being squeezed out of the entertainment industry overall. There is a show called The Floor, hosted by the pretty guy. Anyway, a Fox game show takes 100 contestants, and
I'm working for too hard.
all right.
You want a break?
I'll take a break.
Anyway, takes 100 contestants and puts them on a set where they can play this massive game show. And the set is in freaking Ireland because it's cheaper to fly 100 contestants plus the host, plus a bunch of the crew to Ireland to shoot over there because of tax incentives than it is to stay in LA. And that's bad because 150 other crew members who will be hired locally in Ireland don't get to work on this show. And that's happening. The Match Game, they're making a ton of game shows because the money is getting in broadcast TV is declining. The viewership is declining. So to save money, they shot The Match Game, I think, which is a primetime show. Again, because game shows are cheap. They shot it in Canada with Canadian contestants without telling viewers that all the contestants are Canadian. And this is just all part of Americans and people in LA getting screwed by the entertainment industry, while the CEOs of these companies make $150 million a year. So I don't know, like with that.
I think the Democrats have made it too expensive to make films in
No, you
LA.
blame the Democrats for everything. The Newsom
Well,
just
who else
passed. Hold on, Newsom just passed legislation to give tax breaks to local productions. He needs to do more. So far, only 17 TV shows have qualified for local production tax breaks.
Yeah,
It needs to
I'm
be
saying
more.
It's a token. The business climate in the city is just screwed, and it's because of Democrat policies, Democrat restrictions.
It's not. It's because of the structures of the entertainment companies themselves,
Well, how come
and
it works
because
so
of
well
AI,
under
which
the
is squeezing.
Republic? How come it works so well for decades under the Republic?
All right, Mark, what do you got?
He walks off. I was like, where's he going off to? But I got a question for you and Cassidy. I really enjoyed this question. Earlier today, I was watching one of those new game shows that you were talking about and everything. It's actually a musical game show. It's called The Road. So they're trying to go throughout the South and pick a new country star and everything like that. This is my first time watching this particular episode. So I guess my question for you, Cassidy, is would you ever participate in one of these reality game shows that would have you going on one of those things, whether it's American Idol or whether it's this new one, The Road, or something along those lines. And what do you think of those kind of shows and everything like that, since you are a musician?
I would do it. I'm not like I'm not really into TV. Not for any reason. I mean, sometimes I'll watch a show, so I don't get really into them or anything. But I would do it. Why not?
Yeah, I would do, but I can't be on game shows much anymore because I sued a game show
Right.
over a bad question. So they don't want a guy who would. Plus, I'm a little too old to be the contestant demographic. But I've competed on a bunch of game shows. I've created a game show. I've written for game shows. I've fact checked for game shows. And yeah, I would if they would ever have me. And also, I've got a bunch of pitches for, like, where you take, like, so reality shows basically take a bunch of good-looking assholes and just crash them into each other. Like Real Housewives is, let's find just a bunch of ladies who can be persuaded to be jerks to each other and just set them on each other. But the deal is, I've been pitching like shows where I show that smart people can be just as big a jerks as anybody else. And it's like geniuses in a game show context. They use them in other countries, are an underutilized resource in the U.S. All right.
Before we get to the music, but in that same line, that's what shocks me about this particular game show is a lot of times it is the, like you said, the pretty boys. I don't know that I would consider Clay Aikens way back when a pretty boy and everything like that, but it is very attractive folks. But Ruben Studdard wasn't all that attractive. He was kind of stocky. So some of the musical ones are different, because I know there was at least one bearded fellow that might be the winner. There was a Chinese American that I think he might have been adopted that was into country music, and there was, of course, a couple of blonde women and everything like that. But
you're talking about talent-based competitions where sometimes looks don't matter on talent competitions.
Right.
But I'm talking about the other reality shows where you just take a bunch of people and you smush them together to be a-holes. That's two different categories.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
All right, we're gonna. Speaking of talent, let's do JD.
JD, before you play, and I know Lance has gotten out of the way as well, would you get on one of those talent shows like The Road? It's my first time seeing it. It was a country music talent show. So would you get on one of those talent shows if given the opportunity?
Absolutely, definitely. When I first moved here to LA, I auditioned for Big Brother. Remember, that was one of their first ones. I didn't get it, but a couple of years ago, I starred in a commercial that promoted a songwriting reality show, and I was just playing an actor that was in the songwriter show, and a lot of people were emailing me, "Oh, I can't wait to see you in the show, and congratulations!" And they didn't realize I was just an actor for the commercial.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to the music. I know you're gonna got some good sounds for us.
Yeah, this is all original stuff for you, Mark. It's all original. If you want to riff, Cassidy, feel free to. Palomita, palomita, no te vayas en mí. Palomita, palomita, no te vuelvas de aquí. Gentle darling, and leave me all alone. Gentle darling, fly away from me. No me mis alas sonreiré si no estás a mi lado. With my wings are fragile, if you're not by my side, porque mis alas se doblan sin tu amor. With my wings are broken, but I am not. But my wings, they are broken. Without your love, now in my own heart, broken when I go down. I said, fly me like fire, don't fly me, my love. I said, fly me, my baby, don't fly me, my love. Porque mis alas se doblan sin tu amor. Alumita, J.D. Mount original, along with Cassidy Griffin. Woo. All right, I hope you enjoyed our first episode tonight with Rick, Lance, Mark, Cassidy, and myself, JD, playing original music at the end of the show. And stick around, we got 3 more episodes, or 2 perhaps. Bam!
This is Naked at Night with Cassidy and JD and Lance and Mark and me. And it's a little bit wintry in here, so we're keeping our clothes on. You're just going to have us naked in your imagination. Lance, you want to turn your... This is the second session, and Lance is working on the under sketch for the painting, making slow progress because he's spending half his time getting in yelling matches with me. And this, what you're looking at... Okay, what you're looking at is high technology. This thing is particle board mounted on wood. You just think it's this blank white thing, but it's the product of centuries of figuring out how to make a painting surface that won't go to crap after a couple decades. Lance has specially prepared it, right?
All right, so the reason this is taking a long time is because right now, all I'm trying to do is get measurements. And now normally you can't make measurements, but since Cassidy's head is straight on to me, I can actually just transpose the measurements that I'm getting from her face.
Why can't you
Because
normally
it's not foreshortened. There's no
Okay.
foreshortening.
Okay.
So understand that if her head was tilted backward, put your head back, then I couldn't really go up to her face and measure it because it would be kind of distorted. There are ways of doing it, but it's basically once the head is at a foreshortened angle, you have to measure more by eye. And but when the head is full on, there's no foreshortening at all. There's no perspective. So an inch from her chin to her lips is still an inch on my canvas because it's a life-size.
And you're making
painting.
yourself, it's slightly easy because you're going 1-to-1. You're going to paint her head exactly the size
Right,
it is.
Right. And I mean, last week we spent the time trying to figure out what pose we could get. And Cassidy and I both liked a certain photograph. And rather than continuing to, I went through a number of decisions about the photographs. And there was one that we both liked, but her head is back. Put your head back, and it kind of looks like she's a hot fashion model with her head tilted back, like she'd be wearing, God knows what, Christian Dior. And then I thought to myself, I'm not doing a fashion photograph. I'm doing a portrait of this person. And even though I liked her head thrown back because it looked like you could see it in a fashion magazine, it's not really what I truly like. What I like is to look right into a woman's eyes and get as much character from that as I can. I don't want to do something that looks like she's posing for a makeup or a clothing salesman. So that's what made me determine that we would use this lighting. The second thing is that Cassidy wanted to look a little bit more glamorous, so she took care of that in her own way.
JD.
And so it's a combination of a more natural pose with very natural lighting, not flattering lighting at all, and a little female magic that she pulled on herself. So that's what our choice is. Okay.
All right. So I want to say a couple of things. Your studio is filled with dozens and dozens of paintings that have each taken, anywhere from tens to hundreds to maybe even 1,000 hours for some of them. But the deal is that, paintings, things can happen. You've had horrible things happen to some of your paintings. One of your paintings at a show, some asshole dragged his finger down the canvas, right, and smeared it.
The worst thing, that did happen. But the worst thing is a jealous husband slashed one of my best paintings.
He took a knife or something sharp.
Was it a nude painting?
I had done a painting of a woman that I was romantically involved with, and
Who was married?
No, she wasn't married. I don't do adultery, and I gave her the painting, and then 5 years later she got married to a jealous man, and the fact that my name was on it was kind of a polite thing. I just said, "To my dear sweet Mary from Lance Richland," and that was enough to set him off. So he destroyed the painting.
Was it salvageable?
All I heard was that one day it wasn't hanging on the wall anymore, and she doesn't know what happened.
Are they still married?
No,
Okay.
because he was, anybody that would vandalize art is obviously a prick.
But the worst vandal of paintings is time, right? That paintings, any painting that was painted 400 or 500 years ago is probably in precarious shape, because people back then didn't know what would, and maybe didn't even care what would survive for half a millennium. But you're using materials here that you hope will survive for hundreds of years.
Yeah. For those of you that are interested in the materials of art, basically a masonite panel doesn't work because it's pressed wood with glue. A regular wood panel can work. So even though you might find some fine mahogany panel, it has a greater chance of warping than a cheap masonite panel. And the thing is all panels are are going to keep your painting in better shape than all canvases. So because the panel doesn't move. Now lately they have something called aluminum panels that are supposed to be even more archival, but I haven't found one that wasn't already bent, it wasn't already warped. So you could get an aluminum panel that will theoretically last longer than masonite wood.
One of your greatest paintings bubbled up, right? And you had to go to a guy who ironed down the bubbles with a tiny little artisanal iron.
Yeah, that's good that you remember that. So, one of my best paintings, what happens is this. If you get a piece on fresh wood, a fresh wood panel is actually still breathing. It still takes in the cold, the wet, and so the wood grain eventually rises and falls. And so the painting looked like stairs were going up and down the woman's body. And I took it to a restorer, and he had this little teeny iron because apparently it happens so often that they know what to do. And he pushed everything back into position, and it looked perfect. Tvetsky. His name is Tvetsky in Los Angeles, and he's my best friend, a genius. I he told me that the real wood panels were made from ships that had gone to sea and had soaked up minerals and water from the ocean, so that by the time the panel was used for painting, it was completely unchangeable. It had become, I guess, inert. There's a word for it, but chemically it wouldn't change.
It was like on the way to being petrified wood.
Yeah, something like that. And that is incredibly durable.
So, but you would think that now with computer technology, everything's on the internet, and everything is stored digitally, so everything should be cool, right? Except not. There is a worry that all this stuff that we have stored electronically, if China decides to detonate a nuke 3 miles over the U.S., it can cook a lot of electronics or hack us. So there's a worry also that the way we store stuff on hard drives and thumb drives and in the cloud is subject to digital degeneration, that 200 years from now, they may not understand our primitive technology enough, or it may get degraded that we may lose stuff even though it's stored electronically. Also, there's a new risk, which is when you give stuff to AI to store, AI is like, well, maybe I can make it better. And you put something into AI, and somebody was telling a story that they did a portrait in your art class earlier today, and they gave a portrait, and they were using AI, putting different backgrounds behind the portrait. But AI decided it got a hold of one of the ears in the portrait and decided to improve it and fucked up the ear. So there are constantly threats to the survival of information and works of art.
Yeah, the, the biggest threat is that people will stop doing this. Um, it's not a tragedy. I mean, there's a lot of buggy whip manufacturers and cavalry saber manufacturers that went out of business. But oil painting is kind of a dying art, and with all what the AI is doing is it's putting a lot of illustrators out of business. People that painted Santa Claus with Coke. They used to paint that, but that's going away now because the art director at the ad agency can just ask for that, and the AI will do it. So a lot of illustrators are going out of business.
Yeah, so over the past 100 years, Santa Claus, the what we think of as Santa Claus, the way he looks, has been largely a product of the Coca-Cola company. The most effective, endearing Santa Claus images belong to Coke. So you can go to AI and say, give me a picture of Santa Claus sharing a Coke with an adorable 8-year-old girl in front of a Christmas tree, and AI will take in its memory every Coca-Cola Santa and roll it all together to give you the most Santa-ist Santa. And it's not creative, but it'll probably be pretty effective.
I think for storyboarding and for most illustration, I think AI is fine. And okay, so I'll go all the way to my final argument. The when I was younger, cameras weren't very good, and so I could always argue, well, we need oil paintings. My one of my cutest arguments was I'd rather have my wife painted by Da Vinci than a Kodak photograph of her. Now cameras are better, but that doesn't mean I have to stop doing this. And just because there are images on the screen made by AI, it doesn't really mean that I should stop doing what I'm doing. So the according to my judgment, not Rick's, because he'll tell you his story about paintings that were made by a 3D printer. But my argument is I've never seen an artificial painting yet that compared to an actual painting done by a classical master. But who knows? Maybe they'll figure some way out of doing it.
Yeah,
What was your argument?
at a museum over in London, I a poor museum, a museum that didn't have millions of dollars to spend. They had $1 million 16th century paintings on the wall, and I'm like, how did you guys afford to put these paintings up? And they said they're not real, even though they had the cracking from age, even though you could see all the brush strokes. Apparently over in Germany, there's a 3D printer that uses actual oil paint and can recreate the look, that will convince anybody except for somebody like Lance, maybe, that, it might cost 80 grand, but for your 80 grand, you get a 16th century masterpiece that will fool anybody except the greatest experts.
Well, I can say this. During the process of painting Rick's portrait, I did a photograph of him to get him back in the pose. And now and then when he wasn't here, I tried to use the photograph. And I ended up changing what I had done. And then when Rick came back in and sat down, I had to change it back. So that proved to me that without question, what the camera was showing me is not what Rick really looked like to my eye. Because the camera is changing both the tones and the colors. They're making it different from what my eye sees. And if otherwise, I wouldn't have needed to work from life. I could have just used the picture that I took the first day. So my point is that there is still a difference between what a human does with their eye, and I don't. The final argument you could make is you could say, look, I'm an artist. And the way that I want to express my personal visions is through the use of oil paint. And if somebody else wants to do it through a computer with AI or a camera, that's their business. But if you have an interest in Lance Richland's personal vision, then you'll have to get an oil painting, because that's the only way I'm going to give it to you.
Right, so I want to change the subject to, so it's getting to be awards season, and I belong to the TV Academy and the Writers Guild, and I'm able to vote in the Emmys and the WGA awards, which means that my wife and I get to go to movies for free, and they bribe us. So my wife and I went to see a movie called Song Sung Blue, which is about a couple of lunatics in the 90s, a man played by Hugh Jackman and a woman played by Kate Hudson, based on real people who wanted to put on the greatest Neil Diamond show they possibly could. And the first, I don't know, 40 minutes. Now, I like crying in movies because I like. No, I'm not going to tell you any, but like I'm going to tell you, like I like being in a movie that's good enough to make me cry. I like, being going to movies that don't suck. I also like crying next to my wife a little bit because maybe it'll make her think I'm a sensitive guy because uh, before we went to the movie, I sat down to dinner and there was a big chunk of leftover turkey on my plate, and I just picked up the hunk of turkey and just dumped it in the gravy. It seemed more efficient than using a fork, and a guy who doesn't use a fork is not that's a not a sensitive guy. So I needed to cry in the movie to show my wife I wasn't a complete caveman. But what made me cry initially was that after 40 minutes that they meet each other, they discover that they're really good at singing Neil Diamond together. They assemble a band, and then you see them put on a show. And they're talented lunatics, but they put on the best frickin' show you can imagine, in the middle of, I don't know, Michigan or Indiana or something. And they're really good. And this made me cry because I'm like, these guys are just some schmucks who are out there like putting it out there and producing a decent product. And I'm like, well, Lance and I and Cassidy and JD, we're just a bunch of talented schmucks trying to do as good, the best show we can. And so I cried for them doing a good job at what, compared to what.
Was it a good movie?
It's corny as hell. Because it's built around, there was there must have been chunks of like 8 different Neil Diamond songs in the movie, which is too much Neil Diamond for me. So they kept talking about Sweet Caroline, and the Hugh Jackman character says, no frickin' Sweet Caroline, everybody wants Sweet Caroline, and he kept saying, and like they put it off to the end. Like, I don't know that, like, I don't know. I think so. I don't frickin' know because I don't know Neil Diamond that much. But what they do is they bribe you. They invite you to a special screening. Sometimes they have the director or the stars. They talk to you. They answer questions. And this movie, they gave us designer popcorn. There was cheese corn. There was caramel corn. And at the end, as you walked out, they gave you a cookie with the name of the movie on it.
Oh.
Yeah. And this is how easy it is to bribe people. This cookie increases the chances that this movie will get nominated for awards. They'll show the movie in special screenings for, I don't know, maybe 3,000 people who belong to. There's also SAG-AFTRA. They can vote for it for acting awards, and the acting in it was really good. I can't vote for SAG-AFTRA because that's JD can because he's a member.
You still got plenty of time before I get to my segment, but you had me raise an interesting question. Do we need to get Nick and Kim to get us a bunch of cookies so we can bribe people to get a better audience here at this particular show?
I think Naked at Night cookies would be. That's great.
I'd
pass them out.
I will price them out. I don't know where we distribute them, but
my school campus.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we will do cookies.
Cookies. I'm liking this idea. It worked for the Girl Scouts. It can work for Naked at Night and Pod TV. So I just popped in for that quick question. But yes, I'll see what Lance and what Nick and Kim have to say about that. But I'm thinking, we're only trying to get like maybe 1 million viewers. How much can 1 million cookies cost?
I don't know. They'd probably give us a break on the price. We could probably get 1 million cookies for under $3 million.
I would think so.
That's a crummy thing to say.
I mean, I remember in the early days of
Could
Kimmel.
you repeat that, please?
Say what I
The director, it's yours. It's yours, director.
That's a crummy thing to say, Mark.
That's a going.
I-
When we do have professional humor, we try to make sure it lands.
we're just four schmucks trying to put on a good show for the people.
That's the way the cookie crumbles in the show business.
Five schmucks.
Could you repeat that louder, please?
That's
Oh,
the
no,
way the
no,
cookie
no! Now
crumbles in
you've
show
told it.
business.
Now you've told the same shitty joke 4 times. Okay, all right. Any more questions, Mark?
Actually, I have a comment on that.
Okay.
That was it. So I'll go back
Wait,
to
wait,
my
wait!
question.
Lance has one more thing. Sorry.
No, I have a story on that.
Okay.
So this is a philosophical story, so it might be of some interest to our more intellectual followers. So I studied Buddhism for 4.5 years. I was in a retreat, and when I came out of the retreat, my father, because he was in the industry, was getting every single movie made that year sent to him on tapes. And
Because that was the technology of the time.
right. And so that meant that I had literally every movie made for about 5 years sent to our house. And after he died, because I had just emerged from this Buddhist hyper-moral discipline, I thought, well, he died. I have no right to these DVDs and videotapes. So I sent letters to the movie companies that my father had died and that they didn't need to send them to me because I'm not voting. And that was the end of hundreds of free movies that I could have gotten on tape.
Sad, sad. What they do now, they don't.
But wait, there's a
Okay,
point
okay.
to the story. It just goes to show you that you can be, that religion misused can be rigidity.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so just because you're deeply religious doesn't mean that you're right, because it can become excessive. And I now think that was kind of excessive.
The technology has changed. They don't send most companies don't send DVDs out anymore. They send you an access code so you can stream it on your TV.
But I will say this, in a way, it was the moral thing to do. After all, they were spending a lot of money sending us these videos, and we weren't going to vote. So I guess from a moral standpoint, I did the right thing.
Maybe less karma. Did you like, what do you think about your 4 years of Buddhism?
Big question, but I think it was a necessary sacrifice because I learned about life, learned things that there was no other way to learn. So,
Do you still think it's a great spiritual practice?
okay, so should we talk about this or should we move on?
Maybe we wait till next episode because I too had a spiritual journey in a cafeteria.
All right, well, let me just quickly answer her question. I was a hermit where I fasted and I had a vow of silence and I meditated 6 hours a day. So it was a nasty Buddhist practice, the kind of thing that you read about. And I went through the whole thing and I was very light in weight and I was very alone. And I would say that it was a brutal experience that I learned some amazing things through that I had never learned before I did that, and that those amazing things were worth it. Because if I'd gone my whole life without learning them, I would be a different man.
There is like a piece to you.
Yeah, unless Rick brings up a subject I don't agree with.
All right, so we're ready for Mark. Sorry, Mark.
No, I think he was just going to making a comment.
Yeah. So we can go on. What's the next point? You were going to say
I know.
something about
it feels like
spiritual experience
we're over
and what's
time, right? What?
No, we just got about this, like,
You're okay.
All right,
Keep
okay,
going.
all right. So, speaking of things that don't stand the test of time, Trump's approval rating has declined 11% in 10 months as president. He started off at 52% approval, and now he's down to 41% approval. And, you know,
Approval for what?
just the pollsters call people up or hit them online or whatever, and they say, "Do you approve or disapprove of the job Trump is doing as president?"
Okay.
And you know, as a liberal, I mean, both sides, conservatives and liberals, and you think both sides are bullshit. You tend to be think that it's a I don't know. You can tell us what you think, but you think both sides are fucked. But the deal is, one of the contradictions as a liberal is you want Trump to do bad, but you want America to do good. And sometimes you can't resolve the whole thing. Like we, as a liberal, you want people to go, frickin' Trump, he's terrible. But you don't want the reasons for people to think he's terrible to happen, like inflation, unemployment, the stock market crumbling. But we're seeing some stuff like that happening. The stock market's hanging in there, but some people say, well, it's just because of AI that all the growth in the S&P is because people are buying the AI hype, but the inflation's creeping up, unemployment's creeping up, and I also okay, one more thing to throw into the pot. Hexit, we've been blowing up ships, speedboats coming from Venezuela into the Caribbean.
I'm timing you.
Okay. And sometimes when we blow up a boat, there are survivors left hanging onto the wreckage of the boat. And at least one instance, Hexit said, go ahead and kill everybody, which is considered a war crime. When you have defenseless survivors hanging onto wreckage, you're not supposed to blow them out of the water, but that's what we did. So that's what's going on. And both Democrats and some Republicans are saying, yeah, that's not good. Lance?
All right, I'm going to turn myself, since you got political. I'll take 4 minutes.
No, I talked for 3. You take
All right,
3.
3 minutes. So I don't care what the polls say about Trump. If I listened to the polls, he would have lost. The polls said he was going to lose, and we'd have President Harris right now. So I don't trust any polls that I hear now. The second thing is this. What Trump has done is he has a 3-part attack on the drug war. The first is to destroy shipments coming over water of drugs into the U.S. We lost 600,000 lives from drug overdoses in the history of the country. 600,000 people. To give you some perspective, we lost around 350,000 in World War II, roughly 650,000 in the Civil War. So Trump says, you know what? We have to treat drug deaths that are being induced by our enemies as a war, as a terrorist act that is war against our country and our people. So, by the way, this is the first president that's actually given a shit about it. So the first thing is prevent all shipping bringing drugs in. The second thing is close the border. So drugs can't come in from the border or from the sea. Third, make China stop sending the raw materials to Mexico through agreements with them, through treaties, because China is giving the drug cartels the chemicals they need to create the fentanyl to kill 100,000 Americans a year at times. So thank God we have a president that is trying to save hundreds of thousands of American lives. And any Democrat that wants to pick at it with these legalistic arguments is no more than a traitor and somebody that is a partisan hack that would do nothing to stop the drug addiction if they could somehow score a point against Trump. Thank God we finally have a president that is taking it seriously, and thank God we'll have hundreds of thousands of young Americans living and thriving instead of letting the Democrats kill them through their negligence and stupidity.
All right, that's 3 minutes. So Venezuela has a population of 28 million. So if we're going to pick on a country for drugs, we're more willing to pick on a country with 28 million than on Mexico, which has almost 6 times the population with 160 million. And Venezuela is not a fentanyl supplier for the most part. Venezuela's drug that they're trying to move is coke. And coke doesn't kill you like fentanyl does. Coke kills your bank account. It turns you into an asshole, but it doesn't really kill you that much. And, you know,
I love it when Rick makes these arguments. Excuse
Well, no.
me, Rick, go ahead, please. Please
but
continue.
we're not attacking the true source. Like, as you indicated, fentanyl comes from Mexico using chemicals supplied by China. But when we're blowing Venezuelans out of the water, more 800 miles from the coast of the U.S. where they couldn't even get to in their speedboats. A speedboat can't travel 800 frickin' miles or 1,000, 1,200 miles across the entire Gulf of Mexico. So it's not clear they're even headed to the United States. Now, if Trump wants to defend his and the Republicans want to defend their policy of blowing Venezuelans out of the water, they should have, at the very least, closed-door hearings with Pentagon officials in front of the Congress. And they don't have to share it with America, where they show the evidence that the 80 people that they've killed so far have been on drug boats heading to the U.S. What's their intel? I'm not sure they've just said trust us so far. And, you know, the relatives of the dead people, a lot of them are saying, well, these are fishermen. Well, probably not, in that they're in speedboats hauling ass somewhere. But we should find out, like, what the intel is for sure, since we're killing them instead of, you know, picking them up, stopping the boats. We could send our own boats out there and capture them, at least after we've blown them up, pick up the survivors and ask them some questions. Instead, we just send them all to the bottom of the frickin' ocean. To me, it sounds like bullying, especially since Maduro is a dickhead who rules Venezuela as the result of he didn't really get a majority of the votes. He's a socialist, communist a-hole, and it's like we're trying to do regime change, which has been ruled ill. We passed laws that prevent the U.S. from doing regime change in other countries. All right, I did 3 minutes.
Right.
Now Mark is here.
Can I rebut?
Briefly.
Right, rebut?
Yeah,
Briefly.
go ahead and rebut.
Okay, so thank you, Rick, for making our argument. Yes, the Democrats are more interested in scoring points and being critical of Trump than actually stopping the drugs coming in. It really doesn't matter to Rick. He thinks that he actually, may I point out to anybody that missed it, that these drugs really aren't even that bad. And what's
So
more,
they're doing coke.
No,
I mean,
just
coke is
coke.
not great, but it's
it's really not that bad. You're interrupting me now, Rick. So, I mean, if you listen to Rick, you see just how petty the Democrats are. Somebody stands up and tries to wage war, which is the only thing that we haven't tried against the drug cartels. And Rick's got a problem with that because Trump's doing it. So, frankly, I don't think we need. What Rick doesn't understand is that during a war,
Well, Trump just, hold on, I'm going to interrupt. I'm going to fucking, Trump just pardoned,
interruption.
pardoned the former leader of Honduras.
Interruption.
Trump just pardoned the leader of
Interruption.
Honduras, who was in prison for 40 years for being a drug cartel guy. Trump, for some reason, just let him out of fucking prison.
Okay, I'm reclaiming my time. I get a full 3 minutes starting now. Okay, so understand what's happening. This is the first time in American history that drugs aren't pouring over. Oh, he's going to fact check me now. It's Rick is the man on the side of the cartels now. So this is the first time in American history that drugs isn't coming in from the Gulf of America, coming in from the South, coming in from the water. Now, the reason is because we've destroyed the shipment of drugs into the country. And it's extremely effective. And the way they know that it's a drug boat is they have spies on the inside that tell them what's on the boat, and they can't stop each of these boats. We don't have the time or the numbers to stop every boat that might come over and poison our children and then give them proper trials, because it's a war now. See, we could do that. We could do that if it was happening in Boston. But when you're at war with the Nazis, you don't give each Nazi submarine an individual trial. Now, they can also tell that the boats are shipping drugs because they're in places fishermen don't go. With the type, they have submarines that are doing this. Fishermen don't use submarines. They find these boats in unlikely places in the middle of the night where they shouldn't be, types of boats that shouldn't be used, and they also have spies telling them where they're from. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's effective. It stopped drugs coming in from the water, and it's because we finally have a president that's serious about destroying the cartels and not putting people on trial, not giving them millions of dollars worth of expensive lawyers and trials, using up half our military to try to stop them and maybe capture them. No, we're in a war right now. If you're in a war, you can't, you don't give every enemy combatant a lawyer. During the Battle of Normandy, on D-Day, when we invaded Normandy, we didn't capture the German machine gunners and give each one a lawyer before we were allowed to decide whether they got capital punishment or not. So the problem is that Rick wants to live in the sick Democrat world where hundreds of thousands of Americans will die from drug addiction, and he's not wise enough to just agree that Trump is doing the right thing. That's 3 minutes.
All right, so I have a couple statistics. Fentanyl shipments sorry, all right, quickly. Fentanyl into the U.S. doubled under Trump's first administration. Since 2023, shipments seem to have dropped by 53% because of market dynamics, because sourcing for fentanyl precursors have shifted from China to India, because the border is tighter. But
why do you get to fact check me and I don't get to fact check
because
you?
grab a computer, Lance. This is what I do.
I'm fucking drawing somebody, Rick.
All
Why
right,
don't you use that brilliant brain of yours? Why is it that I'm able to use my brain? Wait a minute. You're the smartest man in the world. I'm able to draw this woman and argue with you.
Yep.
And you go on the computer and check everything I say and get to hear why what are you just going to repeat to me Chat GPT and Google AI?
Yeah, maybe if that's what I mean. That's what
Yeah,
I.
but I mean, but why don't I
I'm
get
on,
to do that?
I'm on this network. I'm on Pod TV like 8-10 hours a week, and my area expertise is typing into a computer while people are talking to fact
Well,
check.
I think it's rude, and I think it shows that you're
Yeah, because
intellectually
it-
incapable.
No, because you get called out on bullshit, Lance.
Yeah,
Now,
I can
didn't
go to
ex-
right-wing sources too and do that to you.
Well,
Well,
no,
but I'm trying to draw a
but
painting.
But
I don't like
sometimes-
these rules.
Sometimes it's not a rule. It's just what I'm doing.
I don't think you have the right to go back fact check everything on the computer with
Well,
me.
somebody
because
should
I'm
wait a
drawing.
second. Hold on, because somebody should do that to all the TV news channels. There should be a strip down the side of the screen. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. They should have some asshole like me typing away on a computer. So when somebody goes on Hannity, when somebody goes on frickin' Anderson Cooper and says some bullshit, somebody should be in the 1/3 of the screen. Somebody in the office should be saying, well, that guy's lying. That guy is, no, it's not. He's wrong there. Yeah, it's a good thing that somebody fact checks
I think
stuff.
you made your point. Now, I shouldn't have to be drawing Cassidy. You insisted that we bring a model here. And the one thing that happens when there's a model here is I can't fact check you.
Yeah, but you do we've been doing this show since 2017, and you've never sat there with a computer.
No, I have. When we were doing the old shows, if there was a disagreement on a point, we could look that up. I would look it up. In fact, I would do it, but I have to draw Cassidy. So it's my brain.
Here we go.
It's half of my brain because half of it is drawing against your whole brain. And you get to pick the topics, so you can even research the topic before you come here.
Well, no, I send out topics every time, but you can send topics. I'm happy to
But
have.
my point is, I don't want to have to argue about with Chat GPT. That's not our show.
Yeah. All right, well, Mark, what do you got?
Well, I had two things that I was going to ask y'all. One I got from one of our local TV stations, and the other one is based on something that Lance said earlier. So I'll ask both of them and ask them quickly. But Trump actually did win in one poll, and I was watching 60 Minutes, and they were talking about the inventor of this one poll. So I was wondering what y'all thought of Polymarket, because apparently Polymarket did have Trump winning and everything like that, and it was invented by a NYU dropout and everything along.
Well, okay, so Lance misspoke a little bit. If you follow the polls, leading up to the 2024 election, they didn't show Harris winning decisively. They showed Harris probably pulling a Hillary, which is probably winning the popular vote, but losing the electoral vote. Now, in reality, Trump won the popular vote 49.2% to 47.7. He won the popular vote by 1.5% narrowly, and then he won the electoral vote significantly. So
it's my understanding that Polymarket is a betting system and everything like that, and he actually won according to what the betting market was saying. And I know Shaquille on some of our other shows has talked about Polymarket, but apparently
Nick, the guy who created this network, was saying, yeah, Trump is going to win. He was saying it for months based on stuff like Polymarket. And people who bet on Trump will put their money where their sentiments are. And in 2020, I gambled a little bit and I won a decent amount of money for me. I don't gamble big, betting against the Trumpers. I thought they were misguided. In 2024, I lost all that money because I was still betting on Biden and Harris. So yeah, okay.
I was just curious, and maybe Cassidy has done some Polymarket betting and everything. But the other question I was going to ask y'all was based on something that's on my local network and everything.
Give Lance a chance.
And this is and definitely want to hear Lance's thoughts on Polymarket as well, is there's a segment that we have here in Durham, North Carolina called What's Driving You Crazy? And it's usually people that are complaining about their neighbors, their potholes in their neighborhood, or things that the local network can investigate and try to get corrected. So I was just wondering, in y'all's neighborhood in California, and if Scott was here, I'd ask him about Canada, but what is driving y'all crazy and everything like that? Because I know even here in North Carolina, we got some bad roads that have potholes. Even if you're like me taking the bus, you sometimes feel those potholes and everything like that. So what's driving y'all crazy?
Well, it rains here like twice a year, and it makes we get a ton of potholes when it rains because the roads wrecks our cars. Potholes in California cause an average of $600 a year damage to cars. But what can you do? You can fix the rains come.
Yeah. What about you, Cassidy? Anything in your neighborhood? Maybe a bad neighbor, maybe a neighbor that is obnoxious. So what's driving you crazy in your neighborhood?
Oh, I feel really lucky. I love my neighborhood. It's Topanga, California, and it's amazing. It's really safe. The people are amazing. I've actually no complaints.
So I do have some bad neighbors. Across the street from us is a hill where coyotes congregate, and they yell at like 3 in the morning. You hear them? They go.
Oh yeah.
And like the young ones, like they haven't learned like proper howling techniques, and they make some crazy noises that just makes you feel weird in your pit of your stomach. And also they can jump over the fence and grab your cat or a little dog, but you can't get rid of them. It's illegal to move a coyote, because moving a coyote, if you trap them and you drive them 10 miles out of town, you might as well just kill them, because you move a coyote out of where they where they can find resources. You move them to a new neighborhood, they don't know where to go to find food, and they die. So we have to put up with them.
Okay, let me respond, please. One, I don't care what Democrat pollsters say about the popularity of Trump. Most of these pollsters are Democrats, some are Republicans. There are certain polls that I do listen to, some that I don't. Red Eagle Politics, I believe in. Who was the guy? There was one fellow that was, anyway, I don't need to listen.
Rasmussen?
Trafalgar and Rasmussen I usually listen to. But my point is, this is Trump's final term. He's going to do what he's going to do, whether you like it or not. So the polls don't matter to me. And the second thing that I want to respond to is what pisses me off. What pisses me off in California is that the Democrats are in total control of the city and the state, and 12,000 homes were just burned down because of the Democrats' incompetence and corruption. The Democrats are so evil and incompetent that massive fires burned down thousands and thousands of homes in the Pacific Palisades and Altadena. And the whole area that I grew up in, the area I lost my virginity, is nothing but a charred remain. So the thing that astounds me is that Rick is so brainwashed that the Democrats can actually let a third of the city burn to the ground. And he's worried about the potholes. He can't make the connection that the mayor, the governor, the fire department all work together to allow this to happen. They were all Democrats. And it never occurred, it never sinks into Rick, gee, maybe we should have had different leadership and part of the city might have survived. That's how bad things have to get. And it still doesn't make a dent on a brainwashed Democrat.
So California's had wildfires since California. Though looking it up, which Lance hates. About 75 of California's 20 most destructive wildfires have occurred in the past 10 years. Now, you can attribute part of that to incompetent leadership. There's plenty of blame to go around. But you can also attribute it to changing conditions, changing climate, and also people building a shit ton of houses where there were no houses before. Also, the power companies, again, that devolves back to the government. The power companies are going to be lazy and cheap and greedy. And like a lot of our wildfires have been caused by the power companies being too cheap to replace equipment that falls to the ground, sparks, starts fires. But the government should ride herd on them. So Lance has a point, but there's other stuff going on too. And yeah, Malibu has burned, big chunks of Malibu have burned, every 15, 20 years for 100 frickin' years. It's in a place that is subject to fires. And yeah, we can do better, but we can prepare better,
Okay.
we can build better, but also there are going to be natural forces that set shit on fire.
Let me just respond briefly. One, the reservoirs weren't filled with water. Two, the fire department was not put in the proper places when we knew the winds were coming. Three, Los Angeles has the smallest fire department of any of the top 20 major cities in the United States, and we get the worst fires. Now, you would think that the least a fucking Democrat could do was say, why don't we have the biggest fire department in the United States since we have the worst fires? But no, they need to give that money to illegal aliens so that they'll vote for them. That's the corruption I'm talking about.
All right. So, I mean, the second half of the argument, Lance raises some good points in the first half, but then saying, well, no, we're throwing money at that part is bullshit. But yeah, so there was a reservoir that was drained that shouldn't have been frickin' drained. And people, should be sued. They should lose their jobs. But
vote for the Democrats again.
well, no, the Malibu is burned under Republicans and Democrats.
Nothing like this. Nothing like this.
Yeah,
it is a war zone.
Lance is
It
right.
is a war zone. If you go, I drove through the Palisades. My home where I grew up looks like nothing but charred remains. It's like an atom bomb hit it. We've never experienced anything like this in the entire history of the United States. This the only thing that compares is the Chicago fire and the San Francisco earthquake in the early 1900s.
Well, the Paradise Fire that wiped out a community of tens of thousands of people. That was pretty freaking bad. All right. Time for music?
La raspa, la misteriosa balón. La raspa, la negra, la misteriosa balón. La negra, la misteriosa balón. Misteriosa marihuana, misteriosa es gitana, misteriosa cocaína, misteriosa es chicana. ¡Ja! ¡Ja! ¡Échale, compadre! La chiranga, la misteriosa balón. La chiranga, la misteriosa balón. La Macarena, la misteriosa balón. La Macarena, la misteriosa balón. Misteriosa marihuana, misteriosa es gitana, misteriosa cocaína, misteriosa es chicana. Dale, compadre. La bamba, la misteriosa baila. La bamba, la misteriosa baila. La tambalaya, la misteriosa baila. La tambalaya, la misteriosa baila. Misteriosa marihuana, misteriosa es coquina, misteriosa cocaína, misteriosa es chicana, misteriosa, misteriosa. Misteriosa. I just wrote that a couple of weeks ago. Hope you enjoyed it with a little Latino flavor, a little bit of Latino flamenco jazz. And hope you enjoyed that last episode. It got a little feisty, I must say, but it was lovely. Any feistiness is is brought down back to earth and becomes very, very earthy and very soothing because of Cassidy. She brings such love to our show, and our beautiful model, and wonderful and very smart also as well. Anyway, everybody in the show is brilliant, and we're having a good time doing it for you. Thank you, Mark. And one more episode or two more episodes, we're going to play by ear. Enjoy. Bam! Stick around.
This is Naked at Night with Lance and Rick and Cassidy and Mark and JD. And Cassidy's coming back from break. Art model's supposed to work 25 minutes on, then 5 minutes off. Because you think staying in the same position for 25 minutes is it gets hard after hour. Anyway, I'm told by Lance that people are like, hey, let Rick show why he's supposed to be smart. So have him say some smart shit. So I'm going to say some smart
Rick's Corner.
All right, here we go. So it's only been a little more than 100 years that we've known there are other galaxies. Before that, in the 19th century, we thought there were just a bunch of stars out there. And it was only when, we got the theory of general relativity and the Hubble recession, which shows that the farther away a galaxy is, the faster it seems to be moving away from us. When we developed the telescopes to be able to see faraway galaxies, that we got our first kind of modern picture of how the universe is structured. And until the 60s, starting in, the 40s, there were two vaguely competing theories about how the universe might work. One was the Big Bang by George Gamow. Not Alvarez. Hans Bethe? I don't. Anyway. Anyway, the universe started from a single point of highly condensed matter that for some reason exploded outward, creating space and time as it expanded. And then the other theory was, the Big Bang theory is uniform across space, that in an exploding, expanding universe, every place you stand in the universe looks like every other place. It's a big, expandy, it's a three-dimensional space expanding in a kind of hypothetical fourth dimension, and wherever you are, like on the surface of a balloon, if you were on the surface of an expanding balloon, which is the analogy that's always used, which is a two-dimensional surface, if you were a little flat bug on the surface of a balloon, wherever there was a bug looking at the expanding balloon, the point of view, what you saw would be pretty much the same wherever you stand, that it's spatially uniform, ignoring the neck of the balloon. All right, so the Big Bang is homogeneous in space. Every place you stand looks the same. There was another theory called the steady state theory that was a popular contender that postulated that wherever we're not looking, wherever there isn't a bunch of matter, in the empty spaces between galaxies where there's not much of anything, new matter was popping up, and eventually across billions of years, enough matter would pop into existence that new galaxies would form, and so that the universe would always kind of look the same across time. The galaxies keep getting farther apart, but new galaxies keep popping up between them. And so these were the two theories in the 50s, but in the early 60s, a couple guys at Bell Labs accidentally found leftover old ass photons. They put up a radio telescope and there was this low hiss that they couldn't figure. They thought it was bird shit on the antenna. And then, no, somebody else came in and was like, no, what you're hearing are these low-level photons that have been traveling for 14 billion years since the initial explosion created the universe. And this is called the cosmic background radiation. And this clinched the Big Big Bang in the minds of most scientists. Well, you've got these obvious leftovers from this initial explosion. However, here's where I'm going to say my smart stuff. I don't buy that there was a single Big Bang, because the universe, the most successful theory in physics, in that it provides exact prediction for a bunch of stuff, and it's been confirmed a gazillion times, is quantum mechanics. And quantum mechanics is how stuff behaves when it's acting from incomplete information. And I've mentioned this a few times before on the show. Besides Schrodinger's cat, the most well-known demonstration of quantum mechanics is the double slit experiment, which basically says if you've got a flashlight, a photon emitter, and in front of the flashlight you've got a sheet with two holes in it, and then you've got a wall that will capture the photons that come out of photons are just little particles of light that come out of your flashlight. And then you've got a wall behind the sheet that will capture the pattern created by the photons traveling from the flashlight through the sheet. If you turn down, so it'll show that light travels through both holes, and the light interferes from both holes, interferes with itself and creates an interference pattern, which means you don't get an interference pattern unless light is coming through both holes. If you close off one hole, the interference pattern goes away. But what happens when you turn down the flashlight so it's so dim, it's emitting so little light that only one photon is emitted at a time, you still get the interference pattern, which is crazy sauce, because it means that each individual particle of light is traveling through both holes and interfering with itself, which sounds weird because it's a freaking particle. How can one particle, it's like having a gun going through a bullet, shooting bullets that go through two holes and then come back together. That sounds impossible. But according to quantum mechanics, single photons can travel through, and you can put a bunch of holes in this sheet, and still a single photon will travel through all the holes at once and interfere with itself, create an interference pattern. And quantum mechanics says that's because you had incomplete information. That because you didn't put a detector on the sheet telling you which hole the photon went through, because you have no idea. The universe doesn't have any idea either. So the universe just says, fuck it. The photon went through all the holes because we have no way of knowing. And so quantum mechanics tells you some of the weird stuff. And we've had quantum mechanics for 100 years now. So like at the beginning, like physicists were like, oh my fucking God, this is so, after 100 years, we have a pretty good handle on how quantum mechanics works. And it's a theory of information. Things in the universe are fuzzy because there's not enough information in the universe to precisely define everything in the universe. So the universe, with its fuzziness, obviously has something to do with information. I believe it's because the universe is made of information. The universe detects itself via having exchanged particles for billions and billions of years. And the constant exchange of particles has built up the universe's information about itself, but not infinite information, a limited amount of information, which means that shit is still fuzzy. But which is confirmed by quantum mechanics, a theory of incomplete information, which indicates to me that the universe is an information processor. And like your brain is an information processor. And if you want to get really inaccurate and stupid, like a calculator is an information processor. If the universe is processing information, then in a way it's doing calculations. And when your calculator, if you still use a calculator, or your phone does a calculation, or opens up an app, your phone does not explode. Your phone does a bunch of shit, and then it goes on to the next shit, and without exploding. And to me, by analogy, I don't think that the Big Bang is the right model for the universe. If the universe is an information processor, it doesn't blow up and go to, fly out to nothing. Eventually, according, the universe, if it's a Big Bang universe, it either has enough explosive kinetic energy to keep expanding forever until the stars burn out, the galaxy, everything burns out, and there's just nothing slowly flying away from itself. Or the universe doesn't have enough energy to keep expanding, and its gravitational attraction pulls it back together. And maybe there's another Big Bang. Or so the universe is either expanding forever or it's eventually coming back together, according to Big Bang and the equations of general relativity. To me, this is not the right model for the universe, because the universe is an information processor, which means it should be able to process some frickin' information and then go on and process more information, which means that, in a way, I would expect the universe to be kind of a rolling set of Big Bangs, where one set of, like in your brain, you have a thought, which mathematically modeled might mean that a bunch of information comes together in the conscious area of your brain. And you can model that like that a bunch of physics shit happens. A bunch of galaxies light up. You have your thought. that thought is replaced by the next set of stimuli and mental reactions to that stimuli, and a bunch of other stuff lights up, and the old shit kind of collapses, falls to the side. So it's like boiling water. You've always got new bubbles opening up. So the universe isn't just only 14 billion years old. The universe is probably a trillion billion times older than that, because each 14 billion year expansion of the active center of the universe is kind of the equivalent of a single thought. Then that thought, the galaxies, facilitating that thought, run out of energy, they burn out, they collapse. Other energies, other galaxies arise, or maybe the same old frickin' galaxies somehow get recharged. And so that you've got a constant, like, blossoming of the active center of the universe across with each blossoming, taking 10, 20, 30 billion years. But the universe has a whole sequence of these without blowing up forever after us. Anyway, that's me trying to be smart. Now I want to move on to another thing we can maybe argue about, which is...
Let me just respond.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that this week, I actually heard a lecture from a really eminent physicist that said he believes in the theory of a pulsating universe. That is, it expands, then it contracts, then it expands, and it contracts. So I didn't understand much of what Rick said, but he's saying this Oxford physicist, he's their top guy, is agreeing with Rick. So that's good.
Semi-much, yeah. Now I want to talk about vicious a-hole boomers. So Lance and I are both, and JD, Gen X. So you got two boomers here. Young, on the young side of boomers. Boomers were born anywhere from 46 to 64. So Lance and I are at the tail end of boomers. But in the view of the other generations and some boomers are the source of a bunch of troubles. We're narcissistic, we're greedy, we're used to having things our way because we were a demographic bump. So there were fewer babies in America and the world really during World War II because everybody was off killing everybody. Then in 46, the war was over, everybody went home and started banging and pumping out babies. And we've had this demographic bump for 60 years.
And we did the bump.
Yeah, in the 70s, we did the hustle and the bump. Anyway, we've left younger generations poor. We have all the money. 94% of privately held assets in America are held by people 45 years of age and older. So Gen X and boomers. And it used to be that younger generations would get money various ways, but one way is by the older generation dying. And except for the COVID bump in mortality, we're living longer. And that trend is going to continue. And, boomers, it used to be that younger generations would get money from older generations. You get married and your parents help you buy a house. And boomers are maybe a little bit more selfish than previous generations. And also industries have popped up to exploit boomers having all the money. One industry, well, two industries I can think of. One is senior living. You should, if you don't know how much senior living costs, you should price it because it's crazy. To live in a senior living community, which used to be called a nursing home, but now it's called senior living, and it's less shitty than a nursing home. It's like living in a hotel now with decent food, nursing homes used to be pretty miserable, but now people move to senior living, and in LA, that costs at least $100,000 a year. Um, in a smaller, cheaper city like Albuquerque, you might be able to get away with living in senior living for $50,000, $60,000 a year. But still, it's going to siphon away a shit ton of money that would have otherwise gone to your heirs. 5 years in senior living is $500,000 that your heirs are not going to inherit. There's also the industries that prey on old people who are losing their shit. We have 20 million people in America in their 70s and 80s who are kind of still in charge of their finances, but aren't as sharp as they used to be. These people are preyed upon by scammers and by, various industries that are scam adjacent. My Uncle Jerry, 2 weeks before he passed away from a ton of stuff, including dementia, I think, somebody convinced him and his family that he should have all his teeth replaced for $20,000. Why is this guy obviously on the edge of not being alive anymore? Why did he need $20,000 worth of dental work? It was bullshit. Somebody almost sold my mother-in-law, who again was in the beginning stages of dementia, almost sold her $25,000 in new windows. Somebody got her on the phone, heard an old lady on the phone, thought, great, I can talk her into some bullshit. So there are industries that suck money away from boomers who have all the money. But that has to come to an end with dead boomers. We die and our remaining money goes to our heirs, except not, because increasingly in the future, boomers are going to take measures to not frickin' die. And there are going to be expensive ass ways to put off our deaths, including like growing organs in animals, where we use gene technology to grow replacement kidneys, livers, maybe even hearts in pigs. And we tweak the gene profiles of what's growing in the pigs so our bodies don't reject them. And they've already implanted a pig-grown kidney into a person, at least one, and they live for a while. And that technology is coming, along with a million other technologies brought to us by AI. And what this means is that there's going to be a vicious fight as boomers fight to stay alive into their 90s and hundreds, and fight to have procedures so that a 96-year-old boomer with enough money can look like a 72-year-old and can go to the old weird boomer singles club and pick up like desperate 48-year-olds who are willing to get with a 96-year-old who looks like a weird, creepy 72-year-old who has $11 million to spend on a pretty good-looking 48-year-old. So what I'm saying is that in the next couple decades, the fight for boomer money is going to get more vicious, with greedy boomers trying to hold on and subsequent generations, fighting for the scraps. Lance?
God. Firstly, it turns out on that note, when they've done studies, it does turn out that the boomers are getting it on in their 70s and 60s and more than Gen Z. So yes, it's true. And that's because, hey, they were the Woodstock generation, you know, the boomers invented free love, and thank God, you know, that was their greatest gift to humanity, and they're practicing their philosophy. So I had a student in here today, and she was telling me that all of her friends are transgender, and
How old?
27. So what is that? Gen
That's
Z? That's Gen
millennial.
Z?
That's
No, that's Gen
I
Z.
think it's Gen Z now.
Yeah. So
So,
all of her friends
Gen
are,
Z starts in '96. So yeah, that is Gen Z.
yeah. And so I was thinking to myself that if you know, I myself my whole life have been doing everything I can to keep my winkle from being cut off, and these people are going in voluntarily. They want it done. So
Can I just say quickly, you don't get your dick cut off when you're trans for the most part.
She said that, could you please shut your pie hole, Rick? And I mean that with all respect. Um, so it turns out that they also have the highest degree of mental illness. Now, it may be because of the more thorough reporting methods, or it may be that they're doing something about it, so they end up in the statistics. But the point is that I do worry about young people, and I will say that thank God, you know, I when it comes to Trump, I know that a lot of Democrats hate him. I don't think we're good enough for Trump. I've decided this man, as soon as he took office, he ended all transgender help, any kind of aid, any kind of government involvement with transgenderism, he halted immediately. And he's done everything he can to make it illegal in the U.S., to control it. He has not succeeded fully in California, I believe Washington, Oregon. You can still have your child taken away by Child Protective Services if you don't affirm their wish to be the opposite gender, and then give them the appropriate hormones, which wipes out their body, by the way. There's no coming back from that. But anyway, all I have to say about the boomer thing is that we were the last generation without computers. Um, I would say much healthier mentally, and I'm getting good signs from Generation Alpha after Z. I think it's Alpha. They're more conservative. They've kind of seen through the gender reassignment surgeries. They've seen the result. They're wiser from the mistakes of Gen Z. So it may be that the next generation after Gen Z will be a wise generation, and I think that is kind of how it works. You have to see the mistakes of the previous generation. That's all I have to say.
All right, so I gotta add, when I interrupted, so most people who are trans, by the vast majority of people who are trans, do not have bottom surgery, which is brutal surgery. That's where you turn an innie into an outie or vice versa. It costs tens of thousands of bucks. It's painful as hell. If you get your dick made into a vagina, I think for the rest of your life, you have to keep that thing open with a tool that is like a special dildo.
So why are you for it?
Well, most people, I mean, if you want that, and nobody gets that at age 18. I would, but my wife is friends with a woman whose now daughter had it done in Thailand, and in her 30s, where it takes a while to reach the decision to do that. It used to be there was one place in America, I think in Trinidad, Colorado, there was one surgeon in America, maybe Pueblo, Colorado, and that guy would not operate on you unless you lived as a woman, as a man going trans to a woman. You had to live as a woman for a full year, which meant living in frickin' Trinidad, Colorado, probably, working as a waitress, and you had to show extreme commitment. So, and that continues. Like, nobody is getting, less than 1% of trans people get their junk worked on. And when they do, it's after years of commitment to living as the gender that their non-birth gender. So it's not like something that's decided upon easily.
So you think it should be legal?
Yeah, but I think it should be like go ahead.
I was going to say, I have kind of conservative views. I think it should be legal after the age of 25. I feel like you have to be 25 to make a decision like that. And I feel like something where there should be rules around it, where you have to like have been a practiced other gender, or like in that without any surgery or mutilation for like 5 years or something.
Yeah, I don't
so
mind
you like
that.
get like
Yeah,
comfortable. And also the one thing about the like hormones that like I have tons of trans friends, and like I just, for me with that stuff, it's like I don't understand, and I love my trans friends so much, and I think that they are embodiments of like being fully and truly completely themselves. And like, yeah, just I don't have any disagreements. I just think that like if you're gonna use hormones that could damage your body and you're gonna make these big decisions, it should be definitely after like older ages, where you can make really conscious decisions and you have all access to your frontal lobe decision-making process.
I don't mind any of that. And now Lance is going to make fun of me because I'm going to say that the science has changed on puberty blockers, where 10 years ago, doctors working with potentially trans kids were prescribing puberty blockers willy-nilly. Now I think because they were saying it doesn't hurt you, that we just hold off puberty for a couple of years while it give you more time to decide what you're going to be. Now I think studies, and I haven't looked into it much, are showing, it does fuck you up some. So I'm okay with, people who work with trans people working off the best current science. And if puberty blockers screw you up, then don't prescribe them willy-nilly. And when it comes to top surgery, there probably need to be rules about that. Nobody should be getting any trans surgery before the age of 18, period.
Okay.
Hold on, wait.
Wait.
Wait, just one second. And I don't think, maybe there should be a higher age limit, like 21 or something, before you get your knockers cut off, because that's
like
not reversible.
Yeah, like things where it's like
Right,
there's
but
studies that say,
now for getting knockers put in, that's reversible. There's a semi-famous book about a guy, a degenerate gambler, who got for $100,000 bet, he got knockers, and he loved it because A, he won $100,000, and B, he lived in Vegas, and he was getting with a ton of strippers with his big fake knot. They loved it on him. So, but that shit's reversible. The other is not.
Okay, let me just say something. For 7 years, Rick's been telling me that it's really the bottom surgery that's the problem. Very few of them get the bottom surgery. And I've been responding with an argument that makes no impact on Rick, that when a 15 or 16-year-old, and there are plenty of them, I know them, as a matter of fact, I've met them. When they get hormones, their whole bodies are changed for the worse. There's irreversible damage that occurs to the body just from the hormones that they get before they're 18, when they're legally able to get the operation. So the truth is that, for example, the hormone that they get is called Lupron, and that is chemical castration. And you can get that before you're 18 in California, I believe. And what it does is it does what I just said. It was used on prisoners, actually, sex perverts, when we were trying to figure out a way of castrating sexual perverts, men that had molested. So we're now castrating our teenage boys, and the hormones given to women do all kinds of damage. Their voices get permanently very, very deep, so there's no going back.
Well, their clits grow to be 2 inches long, which is not, if you're.
Okay, so and then both genders, their bones become brittle, which is extremely dangerous because if you fall, you can break your bones very easily, and there are a variety of other things I could go into, but I want to change the subject now.
But wait, one thing. So I'm okay with nobody getting hormones. Nobody should be getting hormones
But they
before
are.
the age of
They
18.
are.
I think
and the
even
Democrat
25.
Party, the Democrat Party is doing this. Then you're a Republican, Rick. You should vote for Trump.
No, but that's black and white because I
Well, who's he
feel
going to
like
vote for?
I feel like you can be like an independent, for instance, and be like, listen, this is an area for me. Like this is an area where I do have more conservative opinions because I've been sick before and like with hormones and like having to fix them. And so I understand, like, I'm like, definitely we should not be pumping. I love trans people, but I'm like, we should definitely not be pumping ourselves with hormones or
But that's not what the Democrats are supporting.
But hold on,
You're a Republican.
I'm an independent.
Yeah, but you should vote for the person that agrees with your view.
That's one part of the view though. This is why I'm an independent, is because like I feel like if we swing too much on any side, there's too many fixed beliefs on each side that
Yeah, I
like
understand, but in the state you live in, they've made it legal to give these hormones to teenagers. So why don't you vote for somebody that will stop that?
because at the cost of like the other views that I don't agree with, I don't think it's worth it.
Okay, so I want to change the subject.
Wait. Let me say, I've done hormones, and I think I should have the right to do. I did light doses of steroids because I wanted to be more manly, and I'm on Propecia. And Lance, you've done that shit too.
It's such a stupid argument, Rick. It's so beneath you.
Why? Because I wanted to be more manly. Why? How much different is it that I wanted? I lift weights all the freaking time. I gave my.
We're talking about castrating you. Is Propecia the same as castration, Rick?
Some people would argue that a side effect is that your dick doesn't get as hard on Propecia.
One out of 300 people.
Okay, but Propecia actually increases. It's like being on a light dose of steroids, according to some of what I read, because you block a certain form of testosterone to keep your hair and to keep your prostate from blowing up. And your body is like, oh, wait, where'd my testosterone go? And it pumps out more testosterone. So, but like we as a culture, we use hormones a lot. Birth control is freaking hormones.
We don't castrate our boys. Now,
But birth control is really bad. I was messed up off birth control.
Yeah, it can fuck you up. So we can look at hormones, but we should like pay attention to the science and don't just do this shit willy-nilly.
All right, so I wanted to address two of Rick's lies. Two shows, he used these terrible statistics. I said to him that New York was infested with crime. And so Rick fact checked me. And he said, and I said the reason it was infested with crime was because of Democrat policies. So Rick went to the internet and he read this triumphantly. He said, well, New York is 17 times safer than St. Louis. And then before I could respond,
13 times.
okay,
13.
fine, many times more, over 10 times more. Before I could respond, the Mark came on questions and JD started singing. And what I would have said was, well, St. Louis is also a Democrat city. So you're just comparing one Democrat city to another Democrat city that happened to have terrible crime problems. The other argument he made the week before was just as horrifying to me. He says, it turns out that red states have higher crime rates than blue states, which is another lie that Democrats are putting out. It turns out that if you take the cities that are run by Democrats and isolate them from the red state, then the red state will be safer, actually more safe than the blue states. The reason the red states, when they do have high crime rates, the reason they're high is because they will have a city like Atlanta, which is a red state, Georgia, and the city will have tremendous crime. Or they'll have a city like Detroit or Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. And so I went to Chat GPT because I knew that Rick would fact check me. And Chat GPT said, well, it's what did it say? It said, but that doesn't take into account the socioeconomic factors that may have caused the crime, and that every state's different. So you can't just say black or white or blue or red. Well, it turns out that yes, you can, because in Democrat-run cities, they have no cash bail, they have lighter sentences for criminals, they have prosecutors that are funded by communists who refuse to prosecute certain crimes, and you have minorities that are released by juries that won't convict someone from their own minority. So yes, there are many factors, but I stand by my statements that the Democrats are the pro-crime party, and if you wish to live in hell, keep voting for Democrats.
All right, so 9 out of the top 10 murders.
Oh, wait. 27 out of the top 30 cities in crime are run by Democrats.
Well, Democrats tend to. What percent of cities have Democrat mayors?
Well, there are a lot of Republican mayors. I don't know the exact number.
Yeah, well,
but what I'm
I
saying
would
is,
say
that by
Salt
far-
Lake City, cities in Florida, San Diego has less crime than LA. There are a lot of Republican-run cities, and they're all notorious for having
Ooh,
low
it's time
crime.
to grab my little fucking security
When did you
blanket.
decide to be a Republican? Because I know, like, and what was the journey to that? Because I know, didn't you come from a more liberal family?
Yes.
Okay, so what was your journey to being more conservative?
What happened was, my father always said, the Republicans are warmongers, and they're going to get us into wars all the time, like the Vietnam War. And he said to me, the only time a war is justified is when we're attacked. It's not the only time, but he said we or our allies are actually attacked by enemy countries. So on 9/11, we were attacked by the Arabs, the Muslims, and the presidents, the leaders of the Democrat Party said that we need to find out why they hate us and try to get them to love us. The exact words of Al Gore, Democrat vice president, was, "We need to find out why they hate us." And George Bush, the Republican president, said, "We need to destroy the enemies of our country that attacked us and killed 3,000 of our people in New York City." And I thought, okay, I'm a Republican. That's it.
Oh, so that was the transition.
That was it. I made it. I made my decision on 9/12, and I never voted for another Democrat.
All right, so 2/3, 66 of the 100 largest U.S. cities have Democratic mayors, 23 have Republican mayors, the others are libertarian and nonpartisan. So yeah, we're going to have a lot of, of cities, because most cities are now, what percent? I also asked what percent of the top 20 murder cities are in red states, and Google AI says 14 to 15 cities, 70 to 75% of the top 20 cities with the highest murder rates are in states that consistently vote Republican. So,
But that ignores my point precisely. That they are the Democrat strongholds in red states. That's what I just said. How can I be more clear?
So shit like murder happens in cities. It's hard to have murders where it's just tumbleweeds and lizards.
Yeah, but your own number was 66%. That means 43% are Republicans, and yet they don't.
66 and 43 adds up to 109. So
okay,
no.
Well, 66 and 34. So 34%.
No, it's 23 to 66 because 11% are nonpartisan.
Fine, but the point is we're talking about 27 out of 30, the top prime cities are Democrats. So yes, it's weighted dramatically on the side of Democrats. Don't you know math, Rick?
Yeah, a little bit, but
all right. Can we go on?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
Change the topic. Rick, how do you feel about the weaponization against Mark Kelly, who just basically said that him and his five colleagues have said that people in the military can go against illegal orders. How do you feel about that?
All right, Mark Kelly and 5 other members of the House and Senate, each of whom had military experience. I think Mark Kelly was a captain or a major. He flew fighter jets. He was an astronaut. All these people with military or intel experience put out a message saying, hey, people in the military, remember that your duty is to the Constitution, and under the Constitution, you should not obey illegal orders. And Trump went crazy at this because he understood, I would say accurately, that they were talking about Trump and Trump's Department of Defense might be doing things that in the minds of some people, like blowing up, doing what they call a double tap, which is really crazy that we're using this terminology, which is from the mafia and from crime movies, to talk about what we're doing to people on the Venezuelan boats we're blowing up. A double tap is in mafia movies where you shoot somebody in the head to kill them, but then you shoot them in the head again to make sure that they're really dead, because there are plenty of instances where the bullet grazes their, it double tap, pam, pam, twice in the head. So pam, pam, we blow up your boat, and pam, double tap, we blow you up again, which might be against the rules of war and may not be constitutional. But anyway, Trump said that they were committing sedition, and the penalty for sedition is execution. And yeah, so I'm on Mark Kelly's side. That if Trump's going to go hog wild, if Hegseth is going to go hog wild and do shit that we haven't, that we're not supposed to be doing as Americans, that with our military forces, that it's something that we should consider.
All right. So Rick has defended castrating children He's not.
I just said I didn't
He's
say
not-
that. I just said we should follow the science, and if puberty blockers harm people, then we shouldn't fucking do
Yeah,
it.
se-
So no, I'm not in favor of
seven-
castrating freaking children.
7 years ago, I told Rick that we shouldn't be giving Lupron to children.
Yeah, but you're not a scientist.
Yeah, but I was right. So that's interesting. Anyway, so the second thing he's in favor of is supporting. Rick doesn't trust our military. He thinks that they're just being mean. So he's helping the cartels. And up until fairly recently, he didn't know that Muslims were raping children in England. So
We've been doing this show
so-
8 years.
Yeah.
I've known it for frickin' years. I've known
Yeah.
about Rothenberg
Yeah,
for
I know because I told you.
Yeah, but
So
until
it's-
recently,
so
you
you-
told
but-
me
but-
about
but-
it in 2018,
You're
again in
interrupting.
2019.
You're interrupting me. You're interrupting me. So I'm reclaiming my time. All right. So here's the thing. I had to tell Rick that Muslims gangs of Pakistanis were raping children in England. I had to warn him that we shouldn't be giving hormones to children because it will chemically castrate them. I had to tell him, what was the thing? Oh, yeah, maybe the U.S. military has good reason to destroy these boats that are coming from Venezuela to the U.S. shores because drugs coming in from the ocean have completely ceased. But what amazes me the most is that in spite of being wrong about these things, it never occurs to Rick that maybe the Democrats could be wrong. So when Mark Kelly says
When have you changed your
I-
mind about anything we've
because
been
I'm
arguing
writing-
about
I'm writing
for the
you're right.
past 8 years?
Okay, you're
It's-
interrupting me again. So
Fine,
I
I'm gonna
won't
keep
talk about
interrupting you.
I guess it's getting too personal.
You don't. You
so
think
I
the
won't
you
attack
think Trump and the Republicans are right 100% of the time?
I'm reclaiming my time.
You just
I'm reclaiming my time. I'm going to take 2 minutes. Mark Kelly is trying to incite rebellion. The Democrats, when they lose elections and see that Trump is going to beat them again if he has to, he's cleaning up the elections. He's deporting their voters. So now they're resorting to what is called a color revolution. These people were involved with the CIA when they imposed revolutions. They started revolutions in other countries around the world, and now they're trying to incite rebellion in America. The 2 days after these Democrats made this announcement, within a week, a guy shot 2 National Guardsmen. Besides the fact that Democrats made 2 or 3 assassination attempts against Trump, they killed Charlie Kirk, they killed Steve Scalise. I mean, they wounded him grievously. These were all acts by Democrat thugs, and now the Democrat thugs are trying to create chaos in the U.S. And the way they do it is they make this completely gratuitous announcement that, just in case you don't want to follow orders, you don't have to if you think they may be illegal. Well, that's basically saying we want control of the military, and we want the military to do what we want, because they can't win at the ballot box. So Mark Kelly, by the way, he was not an astronaut. His twin brother was.
They
an
were
astronaut.
both astronauts.
No,
they both went
no,
into
no, he
space.
didn't go into
motherfucker.
space. Mark Kelly did not go into space. He was used to test things for his brother, who did go into space.
That's interesting. Okay.
But whether he was
So wait. So an astronaut who doesn't go into space, because NASA has way more astronauts than they have slots.
but because his brother had identical physical characteristics, they used Mark Kelly on the ground to test out things that might affect his brother. So he didn't go into space.
Yes,
Now,
Mark Kelly went into space multiple
lying.
times,
The Democrats
competing
are
4
lying.
missions
The Democrats
as a
are-
NASA astronaut between 2001
The
and
missions
2011.
did not
He
put him in
served
space.
as pilot and commander on space shuttle missions, with his final flight being the final mission of the Space Shuttle Endeavour, So you're full of shit.
No, that's his brother. Okay, now, the second thing I have to say is this. I'm reclaiming my time. I get another minute because I was interrupted. What I want is for Mark Kelly to be court-martialed. He has no business trying to create doubt in the minds of Americans and trying to say, by the way, they asked those dirty traitors whether Trump had issued any illegal orders, and none of them could come up with anything. So this is pure propaganda. It's an attempt to create dissent and chaos in the U.S. And all of these people should be removed from office, and Mark Kelly should be tried, should be court-martialed.
Did both Kelly twins go into space? Scott Kelly spent 340 days in low Earth orbit. Mark Kelly, so one spent a year in space. The others went up in space 4 times. So that whatever podcast you're listening to, misinformed you.
Okay, Senator Mark Kelly was not in space.
He went up 4
I
times.
know you're being lied to by your media.
You're
addressed
such a
by-
fucking
but
homo, Lance.
The most
No
But
offense.
the most important thing is that Mark Kelly is trying to create dissent in our military. It doesn't get any worse than that.
Kelly
It's-
traveled
it's
over
because-
5.7 million miles and orbited the Earth 218 times over 13 days and 18 hours.
I don't
As
care.
of 2009, Kelly had
Rick-
logged over 54 days in space overall.
Rick, I don't care. It's
But you
not
just
important.
lie with impunity.
It's not.
Crawford.
It's not important. It's not important. You're on the side of the cartels because you don't want Trump to hurt any of them when they're trying to bring drugs into our country. And it's okay with you if the Senate, if this astronaut says that the needs to remind our army that they don't have to follow Trump's orders if they don't feel like it. That's
I
court
say it's
martial.
more Hegseth.
No. It's treason. Is what it
I
is.
feel like
It's
they
sedition.
shouldn't follow his orders if he's being completely out of pocket, like completely like he wanted to, yeah. Like if he wants to make orders to send the military somewhere that is absolutely not even needed and it's a waste of resources, time, and energy, then yeah, the military should be able to be like, no, we're not going to do that.
All right, we got Marco.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a couple of things, and I was going to get to some serious questions, but then I had some things that y'all were talking about. I was going to bring up just really quickly. You were talking about the cost of living in what do you call them, assisted living houses and retirement homes, and I was just curious as to what one of the more fancy ones in Durham is, which is called the Forest of Duke, and it says, which is much cheaper than y'all's. It says the cost of living at the Forest of Duke in Durham, North Carolina, starts at $2,290 and can go up to $8,315. By the way, that's monthly, and the average monthly cost is approximately $5,302. So what is that? 5,000. That's 5,012. So about close to
$64,000 a year for senior living.
Yeah, for senior living here, and which it sounds like it's a lot cheaper than y'all's because that's considered one of our high end senior living places and everything like that. And then just really quickly, because y'all were talking about trans, and a ex girlfriend of mine, her daughter became trans more recently and everything like that. Because when I knew her, she was Genevieve Palmer, and she's now Sinclair Palmer. So I was just curious as to what her bio said and how she addressed herself. Because Cassidy, she's a musician, and what she says about herself is Sinclair Palmer is a multi-instrumentalist and music educator from Durham, North Carolina, a performing musician since 2011. I think that's when she was in high school. Sinclair has worked with musicians such as The Tallest Man on Earth, Cigar Ross, Vanessa Ferguson, U. Wade, Dito Rojas, Charlie Lowry, Reese Palmer. And one of the things that I noticed is that when they, on another part of their bio, they said they perform in a wide range of genres with multiple local bands and have toured nationally and internationally. So they use the pronoun they, but I don't think that they did any of the surgery. And I don't think they had any interest in any of the surgery. I think that they're just more identified as a male than a female. And I do think that that's probably what some of your friends are doing as well. But you can tell me if I'm correct or incorrect and everything like that. But yeah, she's one of those performers that is more identifying with the male side of her being and everything like that.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's what your folks are doing, but the questions I had was actually about food because we just had Thanksgiving and everything like that. And one thing that I had forgotten until fairly recently is that my grandmother was a member of a gourmet cooking club and everything like that. And apparently she was known for her gourmet cooking. But then I was also thinking that sometimes in Christmas, there are foods that folks don't want to get, like the infamous fruit cake and grandma's cookies and all along those lines. So my question for everybody is, what are some gourmet dishes that either you cook yourself or that you like, or the foods that you are not trying to get, like the infamous fruitcake?
I like fruitcake, but most people don't. And I don't want to see the nutrition information because one piece of fruitcake has like 80% of your saturated fat for the day. And it's like, why should frickin' fruitcake be so frickin' deadly?
What about you, Cassidy? Are there any gourmet foods that you can cook, and are there any foods that you are notoriously not trying to eat?
Yes, I can cook a mean fettuccine alfredo authentically. So like it was from Italy and from YouTube.
Italian?
What?
Are you Italian?
No, I would have a lot of Italian friends.
Cool. And any bad foods that you don't like?
Any foods I don't like?
Uh-huh.
I don't like. I don't like lasagna.
Me either. It's too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
Just really quickly before I get to Lance, and I know we got music with JD and everything. I had a friend that moved to New York to take a theater job, and they gave me 3 of their geckos. Ironically, that was the name of one of the geckos because I had the geckos for maybe about a year, but it was Alfredo, Linguine, and Alfredo that they gave me and everything like that because they gave me 3 of their geckos, and they give a couple of others to other friends because they had to.
Can I bring up one
Gecko family.
more food gripe? I mourn the end of reasonably priced all-you-can-eat sushi in Los Angeles, and I assume nationwide, where used to be you could get decent all-you-can-eat for, I don't know, $25.
I know.
Now
so
it's-
expensive now.
Now it's like 2 people all you can eat with tip. It's probably going to run you $110. And for me to put away enough sushi to make that a deal means I'm going to leave feeling stuffed and disgusted and almost wanting to buy. I can't make it worth it anymore. There used to be a place called Tadai. Remember Tadai with the little. Anyway,
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about though.
Lance, any gourmet foods that you remember, even
I-
when your dad was living?
I actually have a gourmet food story. Let me give you the story, okay? I had an adventurous girlfriend, and so we went to a restaurant naturally. Okay, actually, in order to be a good boyfriend, I had to find her frog's legs in Los Angeles. So I took her to Careful with the Guitar. I took her to the only place I could find that had frog's legs in Los Angeles. It was a converted mortuary, from a mortuary to a restaurant, and which is, but by the way, they never get the blood out of the floors of a mortuary.
Ew.
So, anyway, so she ate the frog's legs. No incident. Everything seemed somewhat normal. About 6 hours later, the girl gets excited and she leaps up on my back, and I have to hold her and carry her or she'll fall off. Now, that has never happened to me before in my life where a woman jumped on my back and the girl herself had never done that in
Wow.
2 years of living together. And then she never did it again in 2 years later. So in 4 years, she jumped on my back one time, and it was 6 hours after eating frog's legs.
Oh wow!
Interesting.
Coincidence?
Or the frog legs could have been an aphrodisiac.
I don't what?
The frog legs could have been an aphrodisiac.
It wasn't an aphrodisiac. I was trying to get her off my back. You know, listen. Let me tell you something.
She was really happy.
You know, I'm not always. Listen, the point is that she leapt on me. She jumped on me, and she had never jumped before. And I believe it's. I think she ate the soul of the frog's legs.
Mm-hmm.
So this convinces me that if I ever become a cannibal, I will eat the brain of my enemies.
Wow.
Well, you shouldn't let her. You shouldn't serve her praying mantises.
All right. JD, want to make some music?
Yeah. JD?
All right. Some gourmet music. Hi, Margot. Ooh, my God. Hold on. On the streets, on the streets of LA, where I'll be day and night, night and day, day and night. Then wherever you noche día, noche. On the streets, on the streets of Tijuana, here I'll be with my pistolas. I want revenge, I want justice. Take it away.
I want revenge, injustice so bad. I want peace in the world and peace on the streets. I wanna live in this goddamn peace prophecy. I wanna shake it and make it, and all the people to be free. I want everyone celebrating life. Doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. I want children to go to sleep happy. I want people to work together. Don't matter your skin color or where you come from. I want us to belong to the one. I want us all to scream and shout and break free from this Oh, governmental doubt.
I'm gonna go a little bit on the dark side. On the streets, on the streets of Reynosa, Mexico. With my M60, I want revenge. I want blood. We're gonna let Cassidy end on a happy note.
He wants revenge and blood. He wants the revolt. He wants the revenge. Put on the boots and, step on the man's head. He wants to have that sweet, 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 sweet revenge. That sweet,
Cassidy.
sweet, 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 sweet. That sweet, 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 sweet.
I like Gemini.
That sweet, 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 sweet. That sweet, sweet,
Dark.
sweet.
There
that-
is light and there is dark. Oh, a little jam session. Ow. Well, that's Cassidy.
That's our last episode. Tell them-
Yeah, this is our last episode. This is our last episode. I hope you enjoyed all 3 episodes. Hope you enjoyed the intellect of Rick, the intellect of Lance, the intellect of Cassidy, and hope you enjoyed the intellect of Mark as well. And thank you for my own intellect and music, and Cassidy and I just jam. And Cassidy and I have we've never rehearsed. She just jumps on board and starts to riff with me, which is a really unique and lovely talent. So stick around for no more episodes, but watch all our prior episodes, all right? I'm JD on behalf of Naked at Night with Rick, Lance, Mark, Cassidy. We'll see you all next week, all right? And watch all our prior episodes. What's that?
2 weeks. Not 2 weeks, because probably 4 weeks.
In 4 weeks? Okay, we'll see you guys in a month. But we
In
got
about a month, we'll be back. Is that what I heard? Is a month and everything like that? And don't forget, you have to negotiate to get those cookies because we want the cookies to be a giveaway and everything like that. So we're gonna have cookies next time that they're gonna give away. That's what Rick said.
Okay, we might try that. All right.
And just so you know, there's no show like ours at all, where you have Lance who's painting, Cassidy who's arguing policies, going back and forth, and just general culture with Rick, and then you have some music with moi, and you have great intellectual questions from Mark from North Carolina, and we're here in Los Angeles.
And
And
Scott
so
sometimes
it's-
is. Don't forget, Scott sometimes was from Canada. He did pop in briefly, but then he popped out, so we never saw him on this episode. I think he popped in on the first episode and all along those lines. So he popped in on that first one. But like I said, there's always great debates about all kinds of things. And now we've got somebody that's truly in the middle. We've got an anarchist on our side.
Right on. Well said, Mark.
Yep. So definitely Cassidy is a great addition and everything like that. But I'm here to get out of here with these commercials and everything. Rick, I think you need to go find yourself one of those old-fashioned freezers to put those cookies in that we were talking about earlier. I'm sure your dad didn't get rid of all of them, or maybe that was your mom.
All right.
All right,
Later.
thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Bye,
See-
everybody.
Thank everybody, the public that loves us, the public that hates us, and the public in general. Thank you so much. We love you guys, and you all love us too. Bam!
Okay.
Bam.